agenda as we went over in our work session previously. If not any changes for approval of that, do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's meeting agenda.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? I have a second from Councilperson Anderson. Motion made by Todd. All those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move on to our open session. Any of you who would like to come and address us for a 3-minute time frame, we'll give you an open mic. We do have a couple of public hearings this evening. If you're here for those, we ask you to wait till the public hearing and bring your comments forward then. So we do now open up the floor and the mic for anyone who would like to come up and address the council.
Cecilia Carter. She has been on the library board for 6 years, and that's the longest you can without going off for a little bit. And so I wanted to recognize her and thank her for doing this. She's been really helpful. I mean, very, very supportive, has contributed a lot to what the library has done, immensely helpful on our opening, and our discussions. She's very, very, very nice to work with. So I wanted to give you the flowers. And do you want to say anything?
It was my pleasure to serve on the library board.
Cecilia also works for the city, the rec. Well-balanced individual.
So my question is, how long she has to be off the library board before she can come back on again?
1 year, but
Okay,
I'm trying to
okay.
talk her into being on the foundation.
Well, if not, we'll see you next year.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate what you've done.
Kelly. Cecilia just got thanked by Sid on the phone. So we just hired our new full-time person that we were so grateful you gave us the funding for. This is Kelly Closer. She has been working here for a couple years. Before that, and still worked at Provo City Library. I'll let her tell you a little bit more about her experience. But we, pretty much since we got her, kept thinking, we need a full-time position for her. And so we were thrilled when we were able to do that. And I will let you tell a little bit about your background.
I've been a librarian for 18 years. I've worked in Maryland, and like she said, here I'm in Provo, and the last couple years here at Pleasant Grove. And I'm just really grateful and excited for this new position to help this library as it grows and becomes better. So I love it here, so thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Welcome. There was a few other people who came in.
Hey, Mayor, I know we have some citizens that are outside, and maybe, okay. If there are citizens outside, there are some seats up front, so.
Yeah, we do have the stream up and running.
Okay, that's good. We welcome you who are streaming and watching us digitally here. So anyway, but
Sid says it's a little weird still. I don't know what that means, though.
Okay.
So I'll let her elaborate on my text here.
Okay.
so does anyone who would like to approach the council? Anything for 3 minutes? If not, we will now declare our open session closed, and we'll move on to our next item, which is number 6, our consent items. I'd like to ask the council for a motion to approve our consent items.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve tonight's consent items. Oh, sorry. Okay, I'll take back
yes.
my motion,
Okay.
and we'll
We'll reopen up the session. Come forward, please.
Hi, my name's Laura Goldfinch, and I have a coffee shop in American Fork, and I was looking at opening one here in Pleasant Grove. But when I found out about the road impact fees, it made me very nervous because as a small business, I can't afford those fees. So I just wanted to address you guys and let you know my concern as a small business. It will be very difficult for me to move into Pleasant Grove. But I was hoping that, you know, it would work out, that I would be able to open a business here.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
What amount were you thinking you were going to be?
The 240 a month.
And so Scott, maybe,
Yeah, so with our layout for what the different businesses, we have 2 tiers. The upper tier for businesses will be, and this is something that the council is going to discuss, but if they approve this tonight, those that will be paying the $236 a month will be restaurants with a drive-through, convenience stores, and then businesses with parking lots over 250 stalls. So as a coffee shop, you would be charged as a tier 1 business, which would be the $42 a month. So you would not be the 2/3. There still will be a fee, and you said road impact fee. Just to clarify, that's a different fee that's charged to developers. The road fee is just a fee that's going to be charged for every business in our community, every resident in our community, and it will go towards road maintenance in the future. So if that clarifies for you.
So would that, if I had a drive-through, would I be?
You're not. You won't be classified as a restaurant.
Okay.
Because you're a coffee shop, so you'll be at the lower tier.
And that would be a fix that wouldn't be changed from.
Well, the council will review it every year, but so I can't speak for next year. But I would hope that we can keep the fee as is for a while. We're hoping it generates enough revenue for us to make some very good strides on our road maintenance. But it's not going to go from 42 to 236.
Okay.
If it goes up, it would just be maybe a 3% increase or 2% or something like that.
Okay. That's a little more doable. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
My name is Bill Street, and I'm a commercial real estate agent. We office at the Grove Towers here in Pleasant Grove. I live in the county, so I do a lot of my shopping in Pleasant Grove as well. I currently have over 40 acres of land that's mainly retail land listed in the corridors of Pleasant Grove. That's State Street corridor, Pleasant Grove Boulevard corridor. I'm here tonight. I've had a great relationship with Scott Darrington, and he's communicated with me very openly. I just want to express a general concern that you put a road fee in place that could potentially impact future economic development within Pleasant Grove City. I understand the situation you're in where you went to referendum with the road fees to take them from general fund. Your residents voted that down, and you're looking for an alternative on how you can handle this. But I'm just pleading with you, be very, very sensitive. One of the big trends we're seeing in restaurants now is super small footprint restaurants like Little Caesars, and they all want drive-thrus. Or we're seeing the Crumble, which is a fresh baked cookie place, and it wants a drive-thru, but it wants 400 square feet. So if you assess a fee that is a classification fee for a restaurant with drive-thru, then you will very definitely impact someone like Crumble from coming to Pleasant Grove City. Okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
My name's Lisa Harrison. I'm also a real estate junkie with Colliers International. I grew up in Linden, went to Pleasant Grove Junior High, used to walk these streets a lot, and I love this place, and I love to see what has grown and what's developed here. Where Walmart was, you know, where we'd go play in the field, and now it's, you know, big buildings and lots of retail that are coming in, and I love that. And so and I also represent Beanie's Little Coffee Shop, and that's one of the main reasons I'm here today. But just one thing I do want to keep in mind with all of you is you get the residents, you get the retailers, you get the office buildings, and it just continues to grow and bloom and become amazing, and we're on the track right here in Pleasant Grove doing that. and it's exciting, and I love it. What I fear is with the different tiers that you have, there's such a jump from one to the other. I think it needs to be cut down a little bit more and have different guidelines on where people are going to go where, only because you've got some great people here now. My fear is when their leases come to an end and those impact fees get them, they're going to want to relocate to a place where there's not as high of a fee, so they can generate more money in their own pocket. And I fear that some people might not want to come here because retailers talk and it could have a reputation. And I want this place to continue to grow. It's exciting. I just wanted to share a little bit of my knowledge.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, can I just address that a little bit? We've been in this process for 3 years on trying to figure out our road funding for our road maintenance. And part of this process was looking at a road fee, which is based in a study. We have a study that has been done that defines the relationship of how much the traffic in our community is residential and how much is done commercially. And so that's the numbers that we work off is through this study. Our city council is, as we've talked, getting to the point today where we're implementing the fee, have started, at one point we had 4 tiers, and the upper tier for a convenience store is going to be $1,000 a month. And our city council said, we can't do that. And so they have tasked the staff with trying to bring that number down the best we can, still keep it fair as far as the equity of what business should be charged what, and also the relationship between the business community and the residential community. And it gets a little complicated. The formula gets a little complicated when it does all that. Our city council has really been concerned about the impact on the business community. So we appreciate the feedback, and it's not necessarily lost, I think, on us as a city that we know that there's an impact to the business community. Our issue is our roads are in bad shape, and we have to figure out a way to fund them. The other alternative is to do a property tax increase, which everybody's going to get hit. Now, would they be paying, a residence is going to be $8.45 a month? Would a business be paying $40 a month or $230 a month? If you do a property tax increase, it kind of shifts who's going to pay what, but the number is still going to be the same at the end, which is trying to generate $1.4 million a year. So we've had a lot of discussion, a lot of talk in the last 3 years, and we finally have settled to where we're at. We've had open houses, we've had a lot of input, and this has been a really difficult process. So, we don't want to run off business. That is very important for our economic development, and our city council's done, I think, a great job of really trying to get those fees as low as we can, but yet meet the needs of our road maintenance. So that's 3 years in a nutshell. So there you go. There's been a lot of discussion on how we're going to do this, and that's where we've ended.
Thanks, Scott, for clarifying that. Any council want to add any?
I would just say one thing. We have literally lost sleep because of this. This was the business part of this whole thing was the #1 thing that was the biggest angst. But what's going to happen is that other communities, our roads are going to be improving. We're only the tip of the iceberg of this is going to be a statewide thing. When the state funding wasn't keeping up with the decline of the roads, the cities have to take this now into our own hands. And so this is going to be widespread. This is going to be statewide. There will not be a city that will not be doing this. So just so that you know.
Economic development is my #1 priority in the city. And it's for the rest of the council I think I can speak to. We have to bring economic development to bring our budgets up in line with other cities to keep our roads funded long term. Thank you for your comments. It wasn't on deaf ears, I promise. We've talked and discussed, and sleepless nights. We know it impacts every single person when we impact a fee, and we don't take that lightly. So thanks for being here tonight.
Okay, thank you. We'll now move on to item our presentations this night, and would like to invite our Strawberry Days and Rodeo Committee to come forward. And hey, there's plenty of room up here.
You got to come up
Oh,
to the
yeah,
microphone.
up to the microphone.
One of you's got to come by the microphone. The rest of it.
This didn't go so well last time I was here.
You're usually the one that's got all this, everything to say. So anyway.
Boy, those are fighting words, guy. What's up?
So what can you tell us? How did our celebration go this year?
As far as I know, it went fantastic. According to most of the staff, I think it went a little bit better for your staff this year than it has in the past. We feel like it was definitely, we can always improve, but it was, given the construction and everything else, we think it went off great.
We agree.
Really great. You guys did a fantastic job.
Thanks.
Even with the change to the park temporarily, it's still.
It actually
well.
went off better than we thought, to be honest. Eric, it went really, really well. Other than the arms on the city council trying to get over the fences with the things. That was a struggle a couple nights at the rodeo, wasn't it? Yeah, we'll work on that next year. But no, it went really well. And obviously we know, Scott and Cody and I and Amy know, and Denny, that it couldn't happen without the city. And we truly, truly appreciate all that you guys do. I think we're currently working with Dion to have a little bit of a day of thanks for his guys, because they were absolutely phenomenal, and we couldn't have done it without them. And then we obviously know without public safety there would be nothing.
Wow.
A couple $1,000
Very nice.
to help your
Thank
building.
you.
So crowds, numbers, the concert in the park, unbelievable
It was
amount
fun.
of people.
They had a great time.
Just
We obviously have some complaints. We've got a Survey Monkey out there, and we love some of the constructive ideas. And
Criticism.
that was great. Not a lot I can do about the heat. Not a lot I can do about the manure from the horses, but I'm working on that. Those are things I can't really fix, but I took it. So, but yeah, we're working on it.
okay. Next year.
Hey, there
It's
was
gonna rain every day.
there was some people commented that had been in other parades, and they says Pleasant Grove by far is the best organized parade. And I just want
Very
to share
nice.
that with you.
Thanks so much.
It's done all by youth. It's all done by kids organizing the parade.
Oh,
They are 16 and
Very, very well done.
Oh, how
What do
many
you think?
hours? How many hours? How many volunteer hours did we have? Do we know, Amy?
I don't have a final number yet.
That you have a close number.
Some people are still working.
Are we being charged right now? Wow. Okay.
Wow.
do you want to report anything from the rodeo?
Come up to the microphone.
I've got a question for you. I thought you was going to bring those fireworks and put them in my garage. So
Yeah, or save them for next year.
or save them for next year.
Do they save?
Yeah,
Okay.
basically, they'll reuse them in other shows and then
Credit
give us a
back.
credit for next year. We sold out every night on the rodeo. The one night was Saturday night was windy. That was the only thing. I thought it ran smooth.
Really was.
Everybody
It did.
seemed
Really
to enjoy
great.
it.
Nice
And
work. Thank you.
The next weekend, I went to the Lehigh Roundup, and hey, we got it.
Yeah.
We do it right over here, okay?
All
It's
right,
just-
that's
just
good to
so
hear.
anyway.
Thank you.
So anyway,
Appreciate
so
that.
I'm
thank you.
texting Lehigh's mayor that there was a throwdown. No, I'm not.
And
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for your donation. The only thing that would have made this any better if we would have had Scott here in the back grilling some hot dogs and some Pepsis, okay?
Wait, concession.
No, there's still probably some.
So concession numbers, how were you, Scott?
Really good. So we did 18 strawberries. 150 gallons of cream in that 1 week. Did about 10,000 hamburgers, 3,000 hot dogs. We were able to donate this year 4 scholarships to seniors from Pleasant Grove and Linden, 4 $1,500 scholarships. So it was a good year, and we couldn't do it without all the volunteers, the hundreds of hours of people topping strawberries. The one night we had over 150 people there to top strawberries, and they topped about 450 flats in less than an hour. So it was awesome. Thank you to the city for doing that.
Oh, how many flats of strawberries in a semi-truck?
In a semi-truck? Well, we had a semi-truck get lost, and it showed up right in time, about 800 in a semi-truck. So we get through the 4 days, we'll use 2 semi-trucks full of strawberries.
You lost one, wondering where your berries
We lost one. He showed up 10 minutes before the people to top them, so it worked out.
Wow.
But, yeah.
Good work.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We look forward, let us know what we can do to help you.
Yes.
Okay? Okay, thank you. Now move on to our next presentation.
So I'm Kimberly Schroppel, the victim advocate for our police department and our city. I was asked yesterday by a citizen, what is a victim advocate? What do you do? And so I'm just quickly, I know you all pretty much know, but I'm just going to quickly say that I really just deal with victims or survivors of trauma and violent crimes, trauma through if they've lost a loved one through death, things like that, sexual assault, domestic violence, things like that. So I didn't realize some people still didn't know what a victim advocate does. I think that it's been a fairly new position in the last 20 years where in our county it's just become bigger and bigger, where almost every agency has one now. In our county, I believe every agency does have one right now. So one thing that I get to do with my job every quarter is look at our statistics. And I was surprised this year, I believe with growth, as well as internet, things like that, you know, access to different websites and all those kinds of things. I believe those are great things, but I also believe it brings a little bit more crime. So I was looking at our numbers, and I'm just going to go over what I deal with mostly. In 2018, we've had 186 domestic violence, family problems, or custodial interference since January 1st. That is a little bit less than last year, or a little bit more, I'm sorry. We've had 14 death investigations, which is more than last year. We've had 90 DCFS reports, which is more than last year. We've had 37 sex crimes in that category with sexual assault or lewdness. And one thing that I noticed this year is the crimes in that category have changed. Last year, you know, we had things like lewdness, or someone was, you know, kind of, you know, not being so nice, with just kind of flashing people or whatever. But this year, I've seen my detectives just working frantically trying to keep up between the DCFS reports as well as the sex crimes. One thing that I've noticed is the age has changed. There are a lot of younger offenders. One reason that I learned last week at a meeting that I went to for this is because of the high use of porn, which is starting at 8 years old. We learned a lot about that, and just kind of how it's kind of changed the brains of our children so that they're not thinking that relationships like that, they're not thinking on a normal level of how those relationships should manifest themselves. So I think that's really a big reason that our ages have dropped. According to, I learned that from the presentation was done by a police officer through BYU. And it was really interesting to me just to see that the brain actually changes, and what kids think is normal isn't normal.
What did it go from and to, the average ages?
The average ages, so for boys, I'm not sure what the ages, you mean in our
Yeah,
city.
you said that it decreased. and
Yeah,
do you know what
so
the-
I mean, there always is going to be all ages, but I think the thing that disturbs me is that we see younger offenders and they're offending on their friends, they're perping on their friends, they're perping on their family members, and when they get to the age, you know, where they're thinking that they want to have a relationship with a girl, I've learned that a lot of times their thought process is completely not normal. They think that it's supposed to be like what they've seen. And if they've been viewing since they were 8, 10 years old, they're completely warped on how that relationship is supposed to be. And I think that some of those, the younger teen ages that are offending, I believe that that is because they have that warped sense, and maybe, I mean, they know right from wrong, right? But maybe it lessens the thought process, the thought process that it is as bad as it is. I don't think a lot of times that younger offenders, their brains aren't developed anyway, that prefrontal cortex isn't developed, and they're not realizing that what they're doing is actually as bad as it is. I mean, they know it's bad, but a lot of times they're offending, like I said, on friends or family members or girlfriends, and obviously they know it's wrong, but I think that they have that warped sense. So we have gone down in age a little bit, but we still have older offenders as well. I think I'm just surprised with the amount of young ones that we have. So I can't really say like an age, but I mean, it's some cases it started pretty young. So this, Chief and I, when I got my job, we had talked about doing a program called Start by Believing. I believe in this program. I think it's amazing. It's basically, let me put my glasses on here. It's a global public awareness campaign. It's designed to end the cycle of silence and change the way that we respond to sexual assault. The program launched in April of 2011. It's a nationally known program now. It launched, the people that started it is the End Violence Against Women International. They also realize, as we realize, that men can also be, a victim of a violent crime like this. The Pleasant Grove Police Department, we're happy to announce that in March we launched our Start by Believing program at our meet and greet at Cravings Cupcakes. With that, what that means is that as an agency, we are committed to taking a sexual assault report with the belief that the incident has merit. We hear all the times, like we would never say to a car accident victim, we would never say, oh, you drove really fast on the freeway, so now that's why you got in that car accident. Or we wouldn't say, oh, you were turning left and that car ran that red light, but you got in that car accident because you shouldn't have turned left, or, just little things, and that really didn't make very much sense, but if you know what I mean. So, so we are committed to taking these reports and believing that they have merit. We will also have to look at the evidence and put it through the investigative process, just like always. We will look at the corroborative, the exculpatory, and all the evidence that comes in just to make sure that the process is fair, because we don't want anyone to be, we want it to be a fair process in court. We don't want somebody to get judged unfairly either. So they look at all of the evidence. They're impartial from start to finish. Every officer and dispatcher has signed a pledge that reads, when someone tells me they were raped or sexually assaulted, I pledge to start by believing. Survivors deserve a skillful and a compassionate response, and we feel at our department that we can give that. One of the national statistics is that about every 98 seconds, someone is in the United States is sexually assaulted. That means that every single day, more than 570 people experience sexual violence in our country. This kind of crime is all about violence. It's about power. It's about control. It's estimated that if we had 100 perpetrators of this type of crime, only one would be convicted. So if you had 100 people on a chart, only one would be convicted. So many times a victim will hesitate to report. They're afraid to report. They're afraid from the response that they're going to get from family, from friends, from law enforcement. Majority of the time, the survivors know their offenders. It's not the creepy guy around the corner and, you know, that has the long hair and the, you know, hiding out in the alleyway. It's usually someone that they know. Studies have indicated that 12% of women who have been raped have actually reported the crime to authorities. That's a really small percentage. If an incident isn't reported, the opportunity for the offender to reoffend increases, and the survivor may not get the services needed to help them heal. Justice isn't served when it's not reported, and it's not reported because the survivors don't think they're going to be believed. So that's the reason we've pledged to believe. Speaking with Chief Smith, he said, "We want to stop the abuse. One of the most difficult aspects of working in law enforcement over the past 24 years has been the number of victims that would never have been victims if the perpetrator could have been brought to justice after they first committed the assault." Many times that I speak to, you know, a survivor, I'll look into the past of this former person, and sometimes there's nothing, but sometimes there's a history. And if we can get survivors to come forward and to be brave enough to say, okay, you're going to believe me, so let's take it through the court process, that's going to help us get offenders off the street. Chief also said the Pleasant Grove Police Department has always taken these cases very seriously. Making this pledge will not change the level of care we place in these cases, but it is important that a victim of sexual abuse knows this. It is important that a victim knows we care, that we want to help them, and that we will start by believing. We would like to invite the Pleasant Grove community to also take the pledge. Mayor, City Council, there is a page called startbybelieving.org, and you can take the pledge, you can sign a little, you know, just put your name on this pledge and say that you'd start by believing if someone were to come to you to say that they'd been sexually assaulted. The response is critical in how a survivor either goes forward with, you know, talking about it, and also how the survivor heals. There is also the Utah Coalition Against Sexual Assault. It's UCASA for short. They have a program, it's an app on cell phones now that you can go in and type in UCASA and download that app for free. The app is amazing. It has resources for survivors, basically how to report, body's reaction to assaults, legal options. It has all kinds of things for survivors, but it also has resources for friends and family, which I think that's incredibly crucial. It talks about how you can help the effects of an assault, because sometimes if it's not us that's been assaulted, we don't know how to respond, and it's scary, and it seems awkward. And we've got to take that awkward conversation off the table and make it so it's a loving and a believed conversation. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, and here's all my little pledges from my officers. So I keep them in a little book, other than like I have.
Yeah, thank you. That's nice.
You get an A. Very well done.
And then dispatchers.
Thanks so much, Ken.
Thank you.
Well done.
Now move to our agenda on item number 9, our public hearings for this item. We'll move to 9A. It's a continued public hearing to consider ordinance 2018-16, amending Chapter 14, the Grove zoning district, to create an overlay zone that provides for flexibility in creating The master plan communities that incorporate commercial, office, and mixed-use buildings, as well as a variety of leasing types. And we will turn the time over to Daniel.
Thank you, Mayor. Whew. There you go. Mayor, Council, again, it's always a pleasure to be in front of you guys. So today, the item that you just mentioned, Mayor, is for a code amendment. So the applicant, can we go to the next image, please, Marty? The applicant is, behind all this is McKay Christensen, and he's proposing, Mayor and Council, he's proposing an overlay. Now, I would like to take a couple of seconds just to explain what an overlay is. An overlay is a tool used for planners. It's a tool for rezoning. So in many cases, people come up with a brand new zone, but that's when all the rules have changed. It's completely different to what it's already in place. And in an overlay, you come up with certain extra rules, or you lessen the rules, but you keep a lot of the details. For example, in this case, in the Grove, can we go to the next image, Marty? In this case, in the Grove, we have kind of like the same environment all around this area that is surrounded by red. Now here, within this, we have three different sub-districts, and we're well aware of the different sub-districts. We have the one by the freeway, we have the residential one right here, and then this orangey kind of color, that's our sales commercial. So there's completely different sub-districts, but they can have the same feeling, same architectural sense, similar, or no, not similar, exactly the same setbacks, and so on and so on. So again, an overlay, it is a rezone, pretty much. We're coming with a new set of rules, not much different than what's already in there, and we're imposing it on the one, on the layer that is right there. So in this case, McKay, as the applicant, he proposed a mixed-use overlay. Mixed use is because what the applicant is proposing is to have, when we say mix, always talking about residential and commercial put together. So the applicant is proposing this overlay. This item has gone through Planning Commission twice, and three times, thank you. 3 times, and I think I forgot the first one. But I remember the last 2 for sure. And the most important ones. And so it's been 3 times to Planning Commission. What happened is that, so the applicant proposes something, it goes through the process. The Planning Commission, until they feel comfortable enough, they forward recommendation of approval or denial or whatever. So they continue the item a couple times, and they finally forward a recommendation. Now, Mayor and Council, I want to be very specific and clear on this one. Keep in mind during the whole process what we're going to talk today, or what I'm going to talk about this item, that what we are doing is proposing a new code. Pretty much what we're doing is we're writing new rules for a development to happen. At this point, we're not looking into a site plan. We're not looking into the colors. We're not looking into locations. What we're doing is we are writing, drafting a new code. Now, what's the vision of what the vision of one developer is completely different to the next developer. So what we're doing right now is setting up the rules for any developer, not just McKay, but any developer to take those rules and apply them to their own vision. Okay, so again, we're not looking into a site plan. What we're looking is to a set of rules. So,
just for my conformity, the mixed use unit that we approved a couple of months ago up on 1300 West and State Street. How many units per acre did we allow on that overlay?
Okay, you're talking about this one, right? This one right here.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So what we did in that one was about 20. The area was bigger, and what we did, we ended up with 8 units per acre.
8 units per acre.
8 units per acre.
Great, thank you.
All right. So let's go back to this. Let me see where we were at. Okay. So the applicant comes with a new set of rules, and I'm going to dissect this new set of rules by different points that I want to go through them. Can we go to the next one, Marty, please? There we go. So what the applicant is proposing is a new set of rules, that change obviously the applicability of where this new overlay is going to be used for, the uses allowed in that overlay. We talk about the setbacks, but at the end we agree. After Planning Commission, we're in the same point with the applicant. He doesn't need to change the setbacks, but the applicant may need to change the open space, the parking requirements, and the building height. Okay, can we go to the next slide, please, Marty? So applicability. Okay, so when we brought this to the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission, what was proposed is that the overlay will be not only on one parcel. That's about planning. We never do a new set of rules for just one parcel, unless the parcel is ginormous. But in this case, what we're doing is the applicability will be everything within these dotted lines, meaning that the places where this new set of rules can be applied to needs to have two conditions. One, they need to be bigger than 10 acres, and two, they need to have frontage to Pleasant Grove Boulevard. And obviously, they need to be on the sales sub-district. So it can be applied all over here. Now, if we actually take a look at the next map, can we take a look at the next map, Marty? There we go. There's no many parcels that are open that could have this type of development. In reality, most of them are already developed. I mean, right here we have the doTERRA clinic. This portion of I think the city owns this, and there's some wetlands, so it's really difficult to develop that one. We have just barely approved the hotel right here and all the offices in this area. So pretty much everything is already being developed, but still the applicability will be kind of like this. Now, when I brought this and when we presented to the Planning Commission, the Planning Commission said, you know what, staff and applicants, Planning Commission thinks that this should be applied not only along the Pleasant Grove Boulevard, but also along North County Boulevard. Now, that's the recommendation of the Planning Commission. The recommendation of the staff is that we keep it right here, only on Pleasant Grove Boulevard and not on North County Boulevard. But again, I want to bring up the recommendation of the Planning Commission was to expand it and not only do it right here, but also doing it on the properties along North County Boulevard. Okay. Next item, I think is, and this is the most important part of what the applicant is proposing. Okay, thank you, Marty. So let's go to the next one. So right now, actually, you know, Marty, let's go 2 slides back. 2 slides back. One more. There we go. I just want to make sure that we're clear on this. In the commercial sales sub-district, we have 2 types of uses allowed. One, well, commercial. So you can have retail and you can have office space. Those 2 uses. Right now, residential is not allowed in that sub-district. So what the applicant is proposing, now we go to the next one, is actually to allow residential in that zone. And that's why I create this table. Let's take a look at the table, one more. There we go. Okay. So so right now, the current city code for residential, not allowed. And in the areas where residential is allowed, we cap it at 12 units per acre. What the applicant is proposing in this overlay is 25 units per acre. Okay. Now, the applicant has already an area. Now, can we go back to the last one, Marty? The applicant already has an area where he would like to apply this overlay. The property around right here. Can we go next to the back? Now, that area, it's about less than 11 acres. It's 10.733 acres. If we go by 25 units, it's a little bit more than 262. I think it's 268. But that's about the density or the ratio that the applicant is proposing on this property. Again, right now, on the current city code, it's not allowed. Now, again, this is going to be a mixed-use type of development. So it's not only going to have residential, but also they're going to have some office space. So the applicant is proposing 40,000 square feet of office space. And here's the important part, is that he's proposing also 25,500 square feet of sales generating uses. Now, in the past, we the city, including the city council and the planning commission, we have used this tool where no residential is allowed, and then we allow residential, but we then request that the applicant comes with some sales tax generating uses, retail uses. And then we, by a development agreement or somehow, then we require that. We've used that tool not only to allow residential where not residential was allowed, but to increase the density. We've done it before. Now, right now, in the current city code, so no residential is allowed, but there's no limit in office space. Someone wants to come up with a office development, just pure offices, they can go ahead and do it. That's permitted right now. If someone wants to take those 10 acres, they can go totally and then just do office space, and that will be completely permitted. We, as the city, or the code at this point does not require any retail space. It's not a requirement, okay? By doing this, and on what it was proposed today, we do require certain amount of retail uses or sales tax generating uses, because this 25,500, I think is, let me see, I got my notes right here. It's 12,500, see, I don't want to lie, so, okay, there we go. It's 12,000 of retail uses and 13,500 of restaurants. But both uses, the retail and the restaurants, do sales tax, they generate sales tax, okay? Now, when the applicant is talking about 262 units, this is the breakdown, okay? 215 of those units are gonna be apartments. Out of that, 108 are gonna be single bedroom apartments, 107 two bedroom apartments. And this is gonna be important because depending on the breakdown on the single or two bedroom apartments is the parking requirements, what we're gonna require for parking. And also he's proposing some townhomes. It's about 47, I think 47 townhomes, giving us a total of 262 units. That's the 262 units. Again, out of those 262 units, 215 will be single and two bedroom apartments, okay? Can we go to the next one? So again, that's so far we have touched two important points. Number one, applicability. And number two, we've talked about permitted uses, where he wants to include the residential at 25 ratio, okay? 25 units per acre. Now, in regard to setbacks, so our setbacks, they're the same through the entire zone, even for every sub-district. We require 25 feet. They're measured from the back of curve. And in many cases, we have reduced that 25 to 20 feet with the consent of City Council when they provide extra landscape or better architectural features. We've done that a lot. So this was something that we discussed with the applicant. At the beginning, they wanted to decrease that. Then after the applicant says 3 meetings at the Planning Commission, we settled on what the code says already. So there's not going to be any changes on the setback, okay?
So the 25 or do they need City Council approval with 20?
But that's in the current code.
Yeah, but never mind, it's going to be this is not a site plan. Never mind, go ahead.
Okay, all right. Can we go on to the next one, Marty? So again, there's not much to do in regards to the setbacks. But the next one, okay, this is important in regards to the open space requirements. And just to be clear, setbacks, we don't count them into open space requirements, okay? But now, right now, our code requires for every residential area, that 30% of the land dedicated for residential needs to have open space. For commercial or non-residential, we only need 10%. That's what the code says right now. What the applicant is proposing is to do 20 and 20. So still, in a mixed-use type of development, we still will get about 40%, something like that. It doesn't change the numbers, it's just change the allocation. So instead of having 30% open space in the residential and 10 in the residential, we're gonna have 20 and 20. That's what the applicant is proposing, okay? Can we go back to the next one? Parking requirements. Okay, this is the second most important item. So right now, the city code says that for every residential unit, and it doesn't make distinction, it just say for every single residential unit, no matter if it's 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, or a full house, for every residential unit, right now we require 2 parking stalls. That's what we have right now in the code, okay? when we start discussion with the applicant was proposing lower numbers. The applicant was proposing 125 at the beginning, then it went to 150. But after those many discussions with the applicant and with the planning commission, we have settled in a number. So for the single bedroom apartments, the require ratio will be 1.75. So right now in the downtown, we have something similar, because in the downtown we have single bedroom apartments, especially for elderly housing. We say in the downtown that if it's one single bedroom apartment, we go to 1.25. Now, based on the experience and based on the problems that I've seen allowing 1.25, staff is completely set on having at least 1.75, way more than 1.25. Just stay there. And for the 2-bedroom apartments, the staff recommends to keep it at 2, as it is right now. Okay. So in this case, where the applicant is proposing 108 single-bedroom apartments, for that portion, we will require 189 parking stalls. Now, again, we're not talking about a site plan. So at this point, I don't know where the applicant is going to put them. I don't know where it's going to be located. That's what will be required. That will be the applicant's problem when he starts working on a site plan. Okay. For the apartments, for the total parking for the apartments will be 403. 403, that's taking into consideration single and 2-bedroom apartments. So when I talked to the applicant about the type of apartments he was going to go, it's only against single and 2-bedroom apartments. For the townhomes, we'll keep the same ratio, and that will give us a total of about 500 parking stalls. Now, is that what the applicant was looking at the beginning? No. No, but we've been working and we've been trying to make sure that the needs of the citizens and the needs of the residents of Pleasant Grove are met in regards to parking. That's why the staff is set on those numbers, and so was Planning Commission. We never went down on those numbers. So that's what we have right now. Let me see. So what I'm looking for today is some direction from the City Council. You know, if the City Council is either interested in taking this further, obviously the code that the applicant has proposed, this is completely his proposal. Okay, the staff hasn't messed with it so much. It has come to Planning Commission, and Planning Commission realizes that it's incomplete. That still staff needs to work on it. Therefore, well, if the answer from the City Council today is like, no, we're not want to go in that direction, then we'll stop right there. But if the council of the direction of the City Council is that yes, we're interested in this, please push it forward. It's the recommendation is that we continue the item to allow staff to adequately ensure that the ordinance that is proposed is complete and is conforming with the current code. That there's no any conflict. There's not any conflict in what was proposed and what we already have. Because again, it's an overlay. So we're not coming with a new set of rules, so you want to make sure that they match perfectly. So that's what we have. This item went to the Planning Commission 3 times again. And at the end, Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval unanimously on this project. But they want to make sure that the staff has some time to make sure that all these items that we talk about are in the code and that the staff has time to fix the nuts and bolts of the code. Okay.
Daniel? And they wanted this to be effect on North County Boulevard too.
Yes. Okay. That's the recommendation of the Planning Commission. The staff thinks this differently. So just to keep it on Pleasant Grove Boulevard.
Any other questions for Daniel? Anything else for us?
Pardon?
Do you have anything else for us?
No, that's what I got, Mayor.
Presenting?
Yes.
Would Mr. Christensen like come forward and say a few words there? This overlay would do for you, or?
Hi, I'm McKay Christensen. I'm the applicant. I actually have some materials that I wanted to show. Oh, they're pulling it up right now. Before I get into this, and I know that you've got a lot of people here and a lot of things that you need to get through, and so I don't want to spend a lot of time. But on the other hand, like we've got a lot writing on this, and so I'd feel remiss if I didn't get everything out that I want to get out. Any questions, though, maybe before I get into this? Okay, so is someone going to be working the keys on this?
Marty.
Marty, you got it? Okay, thanks, Marty. So just quickly, a couple similar projects that we are doing. This is a project that we have down in Provo. Marty, you can go ahead and slide through. It's right across the street from the temple in downtown Provo, kitty corner to the temple. It's on, go ahead and slide through, 0.75 of an acre, and there are 136 units. It's effectively 180 units per acre. You can see in through here, all of this is ground floor retail. Then we've got 5 floors of residential above. You actually pull into a garage opening right here. You've seen this type of product where you come into a parking garage, it cycles up, and you go up above. Go ahead, Marty. Basically, that's the first level floor plan. You come in here. The parking is completely hidden. Go ahead, Marty. The structured part. Oh, wait 1 sec. Right. Well, I'll get back to it. Go ahead. Go ahead. Sorry. And then this is the second level. Again, it's completely flanked by residential. Up one more time. And then once we get above the parking deck, we put a concrete cap over that parking. And then the residential units go on top of it. We've got a clubhouse that's about 2,500 square feet here. And then you've got this big deck where we put fire pits and barbecues, and it becomes, you know, trees and an amenity space. And then over the top of the rooftop on this section on the 6th floor, we've got these rooftop amenities. Go ahead, Marty. Where, you know, again, jacuzzis and you know, fire pits and stuff like that. This is really cool because you get at the top of that building, you're looking right down onto the temple. It's a really, really cool project. Go ahead, Marty. We always, in this environment, we put bicycles in every room to encourage bicycle use instead of using cars. Again, it's a fairly urban environment. Go ahead, Marty. You can see as you walk right into this unit, we've got bike racks that allow people to hang their bikes up. Next slide. On the main level of the retail, we have commercial bike storage for all of the retail. So the idea is that we encourage people to ride their bikes to the restaurants, to the stores, park their bike in through here. Also for the residents, if they have a dirt bike, they can park it. We have a tune-up station. We have a wash station. Then they take their bike to the elevator and run it to their room. Just cool little amenities. We try to think through everything. Go ahead, Marty. We'll go through this quick. This is another project that we're doing in Sandy. Again, it's 181 units on 1.5. That's 116 units per acre. Whoops. Keep going, Marty. It's right behind Sandy. Here's Southtown Mall, right behind the Target. So now to the Boulevard. So that's kind of what we're calling this mixed-use development. We're very accustomed with developing projects like this. If you go to the next slide, we'll just skip through some of this stuff. This is just basically Utah County employment growth statistics. You guys have probably seen Kem Gardner Policy Institute prepares demographic and economic projections to support informed decisions in making in the state. It just is all the projections for employment and population growth. If you go through all of this, which we won't, net migration, 1/3 of the people that are moving to the state come from outside of the state. Go ahead, Marty. You can skip these next couple slides. It just says Utah County is the fastest growing county in the state. If you stop on this, keep going, Marty, on this one. If you stop on this slide, basically we're adding 100,000 people to Utah County every 10 years, or 200,000 people, which is about 20,000 people a year. We're adding basically Highland City to Utah County, a new city, almost every year. It's remarkable growth that they have projected. Go ahead, Marty. As far as employment growth goes, we're adding 100,000 jobs every 10 years, which is 10,000 jobs to Utah County every year. It's remarkable, remarkable growth. Over the next 50 years, Utah County, if you can believe it or not, next slide, Marty, is going to be the same size as Salt Lake County, 1.6 million people, which is it's kind of mind-blowing. So the summary in all this basically is that whether we like it or not, the state is growing by leaps and bounds. Go ahead, Marty, you can keep going. Skip this one. We just went through all of this. So this is the site location, and Daniel has already gone through this. Here's the site. This just shows within a half a mile. Literally, if you walked this, which you could, and you could walk a mile really in about 15 minutes. You could ride your bike all the way down here, which is less than a mile in about 15 minutes. But within a half a mile radius, you have 1 million square feet from doTERRA. You've got Alpha Graphics. You've got The Void, Evermore. You've got Kem Gardner's Urban Grove development that's close to 200,000 square feet. You've got all of this. Basically, you've got 2 million square feet of office. Now, what's happening is people are coming in here every day, over 9,000 employees coming in here every day, and they're leaving. And what they leave are these big, huge, vacant parking lots in and around these office buildings, and they just sit idle overnight. And the people come and they go. They don't spend their dollars here, and they don't live here. And by living here, you could actually reduce the traffic footprint that is happening. And that, frankly, is the idea behind what it is that we're doing. We're saying there are 2 million square feet of office, of which there is a massive millennial demographic that comes to this site every single day. And they have no place to live, and they have no place to shop, and they don't have an experience. And they want to have an experience. That's how they live. So our demographic is roughly the age of about 22 to 34, and they're single working professionals, newlyweds with 1 child or fewer. And that is, if you go into Jersey Mike's around 12:30 in the afternoon, you'll see a bunch of construction workers, and then you'll see nothing but that demographic walking around with lanyards. They're all over the place. Next slide, please. So Daniel went through this. This is our mix, proposed mix. Go ahead, next slide. This is our proposed site plan. Again, as Daniel mentioned, we are not getting a site plan approved today, but in order for us to be able to come up with a text amendment, we have to have a site plan, perform all of our projections, economics, everything like that. So this is how we're proposing to lay out the townhomes. We've got retail pads out here, 40,000 square feet of office, ground floor retail here, and then this is the apartment section. Next slide, please, Marty. That just kind of gives you a context of how it sits. This is 2200 South that we're proposing to bring through. Next slide. These are some of the site challenges. Because we've got a couple of things. Number one, it's funky in the first place. You've got all of these little bits and pieces that are basically, it's a big triangle shaped. It's 2 different triangles and 1 rectangle. This is the most efficient piece that we got. And then once you put this road through the middle of it, it turns it into a 4-acre piece, a 2-acre piece, a 2.4-acre piece, and a 1-acre piece. As far as retail goes, I am confident I can make this work, but anything back off this I think would really struggle. And I think without the text amendment, this would probably end up being almost completely office. You may get some, I think that this could be a restaurant. What we are doing, like Daniel mentioned, is there is no requirement to have retail here. We are adding 25,000 square feet of retail, and with that 25,000 square feet of retail, I've got commitments from a good friend of mine who's a restaurateur to bring in 4 or 5 restaurants that I'll get to. So next slide. So on this, you can see this is St. John's. Every one of their pieces, the way that they lay this out, is pretty much a square. And if it's not a square, it's, you know, this piece here is 15 acres. This one right here is about 12 acres. This will give you an idea of how much we're making our little site work. And the idea that we're adding residential obviously is true, but we're not, we really genuinely are not taking retail away from this site by virtue of zoning it this way. On this piece, there's 10.6 acres. They've got 54,000 square feet of office, roughly 43,000 square feet of retail. So you've got about 9,000 square feet per acre of commercial space. On this one, it's about 5,000 square feet of retail per acre. 36,000 square feet of, all these are little restaurant pads, right, and retail pads. Marty, would you mind going back up to our last slide? If you look at our project, we have a total of 65,000 square feet of commercial and retail on really 6.2 acres. So we are really, really making this work primarily because of structured parking that we're putting in. So we're at 9,500 square feet per acre, which is a lot. That's more than what St. John's is getting on the pieces that are down by the highway. So that'll give you an idea of this truly is, genuinely is a mixed use development. Marty, would you mind going down 2? So this is the apartments. This is our demographic, right? They're your kids, really. And that's who we're trying to capture. Go ahead, next slide. Townhomes, we've already gone through this. You can keep going, Marty. The office building, we anticipate will look something like this, kind of like what the ASEO building looks like. You can keep going. So as far as the shops, a very good friend of mine operates several different restaurants in Utah County. He owns Black Sheep, Chomburger, Rockwell, Pyromaniacs, Cut Bop. I don't know if you've ever been to any of these restaurants, but they're dynamite. They're really, really good. And these are the ones that we would like to bring in. So if you go to the next slide, I think I show it here. Chom is hamburgers, Rockwell is ice cream, Blue Poblano is a Mexican food place. It's really good. Next slides, Station 22, Black Sheep Cafe. This is one of my favorite restaurants, actually. It's dynamite. Keep going down. And so this is how we anticipate. And again, we don't have signed leases. We don't have anything like that. We're just getting a text amendment right now. But he would like to come in. Loves the idea of this mixed use. Love that we have a bunch of customers that are living right there, that can walk right there, that doTERRA can walk across the street. Really, really likes this whole mixed use environment. So those are the restaurants that we anticipate we will have come on in. I've got a informal commitment from him. Next slide, and this is basically the last slide. This speaks to the difficulty of the site. Some of the things that we have going on. We're buying the road right here is 1 acre. We're buying it at about almost $500,000. It costs, then we've got to improve this. We've got to improve this whole section of road and through here, as far as I understand it, right, Marty? Oh, we did? Okay.
He's back in.
I'm sure. Anyway, and so that, right now, preliminary estimates show about $565,000 in infrastructure costs. We're looking at $1 million in infrastructure that basically we purchase and then deed over to the city. And then what we're left with is a bunch of these little tiny parcels that are difficult to work. We're purchasing this piece from the city. This is a reflection of the sales tax revenue that would be generated over a 10-year period. This is the property tax revenue for the site that would be generated over a 10-year period. And these are the lovely impact fees that we get to pay as soon as we pull building permits. Every city has them. We're not complaining specifically to Pleasant Grove. It's a total of about $7 million in revenue that would be generated towards the city, of which 4.3 is pretty immediate. So my point in saying this is that there's a lot that this little site has to bear, a lot. And it's on top of that, there are water table issues, as everybody knows. In fact, doTERRA's got helical piers that are going through their building, and I understand InStructure has them too. And all of that contributes to the cost of developing in here. It doesn't make it easy. And when you have all of these costs, plus you've got these very irregular pieces, it just means we got to make that little piece work as best we can. Which is one reason why, as Daniel, when we first came in, we were proposing 1.25 stalls per 1 bedroom and 1.75 stalls per 2 bedroom, a blended average of about 1.5. And of course, we had those 3 meetings with the Planning Commission. They beat you up, they put you through the meat grinder, and you come out the other side with something different. But yeah, yay plan, they do a good job. And
better them than us, I think.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, I feel like we were able to come to compromises that allow it to work. The parking, of course, is the biggest issue. The more parking we have, right now my parking structure for just the apartments alone is going to cost about $8 million. If you figure I've got 403 parking stalls, like what Daniel showed, at about $20,000 a stall, it's over $8 million. Go ahead, next slide. I think that's it. Yep, that's it. So thank you. I appreciate your patience on all that.
Thank you. You've we see the potential there, and we thank you for sharing that with us this evening.
Do you have any questions for me at all?
Not now. I'm sure we will have later, but not tonight. So, thank you. Well, we now move to our open it up to the public for a public hearing, and those who want to come up and address this for 3 minutes each person. We open up the microphone and we remind you we're not talking about, this is just a conceptual plan here that could be possibly he could bring back, and not saying that we did improve it. We're just talking about amending the zoning to make something like this happen or similar or like this. So those who would like to come forward, would you please come forward?
I'm Denise Trickler. I'm a resident of Pleasant Grove, and I think that this is
wonderful, because I think it's the millennials that are going to be living here and buying here and working across the street at doTERRA, which they are adding more and going to have more people working there. And I think this overlay is going to would be fantastic. So.
I'm Brian Clark. I think it's a great idea, but the comment I want to make is you guys have got to get that 275 exit intersection fixed, because this is going to add additional load, and if you don't do this, you're going to develop something else, and that's going to do additional load. It's to the point that I think it's a safety concern. I live over on Mayfield, right, just past the Belle Monet, and just to turn left off of the main road, because the right turn is backed up 3 to 4 blocks, probably 10 hours a day. It's difficult, you know, and it's, I mean, you're probably a traffic light there, but I can't even turn into my residence anymore unless someone's nice and waits, because that intersection and that whole area is really way outgrown the traffic. It's a disaster. And you're going to keep developing, you have to, but it's just going to get worse and worse and worse. And I assume there's a lot of discussion on that, but I think something like this just underscores there's a really critical need in that area.
I appreciate that, and we're working with this. It's a state road where you're talking about,
that it's a county
and so they're just waiting for funding, and they're doing their planning now for it. So,
good to hear.
Okay.
My name's Bill Street. I'm a county resident. I live on West Pleasant Grove Boulevard. A couple of things from the Kim Gardner study that I wanted to bring up that weren't mentioned. I do a lot of work with Utah County Housing, Provo Housing, Restore Habitat for Humanity, and so I'm on a number of housing affordability work groups. There's currently, for the first time ever in the state of Utah, a shortage of 250,000 rooftops versus households, which means we have that many more households than available roofs to put over families' heads. The other thing from the study is that there's 80% of our growth is internal growth. It's your children, it's my 7 children that we're introducing into the communities. And so I just wanted to place that emphasis on how important it is for every single one of our communities to do their part to have housing affordability and to provide. And one thing, I'm not standing here being an advocate for density, but I am an advocate for having housing affordability across the spectrum, whether it's new couples into the community, if it's senior, if it's any of us, right? If you're later on in your life and you still want to have housing affordability for your nicer, higher end home. And so anyway, that's my feedback.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is David Doxey. I represent doTERRA. Our position is we actually stand in opposition to the ordinance and as proposed, and that's what is before this body, is what the applicant has written. And what the applicant has written doesn't mirror the Planning Commission recommendations. Even the Planning Commission recommendations move down what is the normal practice for this city in terms of parking and setbacks. And really, when we're talking about this rezone, I mean, it is an overlay, but that's a legislative action that is a rezoning. Okay? It could just be a new zone, you know. And so what we're talking about is this zone being applied all up and down Pleasant Grove Boulevard. The applicant comes and asks to reduce parking, asks to reduce the setbacks, and that will have to, if the ordinance passes as requested by the applicant, that will apply to the whole of the area where the zone is presented, not just this applicant's project. So in terms of looking at what the applicant has proposed, It is not consistent with the Planning Commission's recommendation, and it's not consistent with the existing ordinance in terms of density of parking. Now let me speak to why that's important, okay? We're going to have a lot of congestion, and every single landowner needs to do their part to provide the necessary parking for their people. And it can't be borne by the neighbors. This density of parking that the applicant has proposed, he actually comes with no evidence to this body to suggest that 1 parking stall or 1.5 parking stalls is sufficient, okay, for this type of housing. He says, well, we're building 1-bedroom apartments, we're building 2-bedroom apartments, and these are going to be for wealthy new people, okay, new couples, new young people that are professionals. Well, it is odd to me that we think that wealthier people will have less. Wealthier people own more. They buy motorcycles, they buy boats, they buy multiple cars, and the statement that they're going to have less is just inaccurate in terms of common sense. They need to lift their share of the burden, provide the parking that this city normally does, and I'll leave it.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate your input. Anyone else who would like to come forward?
I do really like the concept of what the applicants bring forward, of what they would like to do, but I agree with doTERRA's representative that I don't like the overlay and the ordinance that's being presented and what kind of effect that will have on the rest of the section as a whole. I'm not sure what the solution there is, but I do have a problem with the ordinance.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, my name's Gordon Jacobson. I work for Colliers International, and so I'm a daytime resident of Pleasant Grove, but I also live on the boundary of Pleasant Grove, so I don't go far from my office every day. Some of the statistics that we heard today were about the growth of Utah, and those are real statistics that are happening. And we can't continue to develop the same way we have historically and keep up with that demand. And if we don't take the opportunities to create walkable communities where these people work, we're going to really be suffering down the road when we do try to find places for 1.6 million people in Utah County. And if we force those high-density housing complexes away from our urban cores, then they will have to drive into these 11,000 jobs at this location, which is by far going to have a lot worse impact on the traffic than creating residential neighborhoods where people can walk to work. We're not talking about a huge amount of residential units here. We're only talking about 268 units or something like that. And I think really an opportunity like this where we could have a walkable community, we should be looking at higher densities than what we're proposing right here. This is a rare opportunity in Pleasant Grove, probably the only place in Pleasant Grove where you can truly have a walkable community. They can walk to Macy's, they can walk to Water Gardens, they can walk to work, they can walk to all of the new entertainment facilities are coming in that are attractive to that demographic, and I think it's a real opportunity that I hope we don't squander at this point. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mayor and members of the council, my name is Stephen Christensen. I'm McKay's father. I live in Highland, excuse me, fighting a cold. I'd like to point out a couple things. I think doTERRA's architecture and the building that they built and helped here in the Grove is just a marvelous building. They've done a beautiful job. And some of the other buildings that have been built are as well. And I think we understand a little bit about the vision. We've been developing master plan communities for about 40 years or so. And but one of the things that's changing in master plan communities, I think you have, this acreage is just priceless. You drive down the freeway, you can see Mount Timpanogos. The sight lines are just unbelievable. And I know the city has a great deal of concern and for the values and to develop this property in a way that's really efficient and worries about traffic. I think the development of this property has the smallest footprint you could almost put on this piece of property as far as having an impact on the area. But what I'd like to say is that one of the things that's changing very fast is when you have these office complexes that are just tall, and then they just, and not finding fault with doTERRA, it's been kind of the standard with everybody, it's just a sea of asphalt. Just flat asphalt for acres and acres. You drive down the freeway and you end up with towers. You're going to end up with towers and thousands upon thousands upon thousands of cars just across the sea of asphalt as you drive up and down the freeway is what you're going to see. A lot of it will be traffic that comes in from out of town, and they park and they leave. Having this model, a prototype or an experiment or a pilot program with this little triangular piece that also, you know, you buy the land, then you improve you buy the street, then you improve the street with all that goes into it, and then you deed it over to the city, and then you have the burn rate before you even start doing anything. And what you have here is a chance, I think, to build these little clusters, and that's what's being done in some really, like Irvine Ranch and other places. And I'm not holding, this is beautiful, maybe in more the scenic, what you see than even Irvine Ranch, but you have a chance to build these little clusters within the development itself and have people walk or ride a bike or a scooter or shop a little bit right there and stay and live. And it has a low impact on schools, on everything. Be more seniors, mostly millennials, but you'll have a lot of singles in there, working people that can just go across the street and work at all the different businesses. I think it's a marvelous model if it works, and then it can be developed. It can always be altered, and the city can go back and say we want to tweak it, amend it, and do this and do that. But if it works, it can end up being a marvelous master plan instead of just having towers and sea of asphalt. And I think the structured parking, I don't know that there's any structured parking in Pleasant Grove. This is really rare. It's hidden, you can't see it, it's condensed, and it works out for what I think is a really beautiful overall master plan.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council? If not, I'll now declare our public hearing closed, and we'll bring it back up to the council here for discussion. So, council, I turn it to you.
I'll go first.
Okay.
So this is a hard one, right? Bill, other than the roads issue, this is probably one of the top issues that we deal with as a city, and probably all cities in Utah County. And we saw the numbers up there. I have 2 millennials that live in my house now that we thought we were free and clear, and then affordability comes into question, right? And where are they going to live, and do they want to live by mom and dad? And it keeps going on, right? So they're there trying to find affordable housing or somewhere to live, and so a big issue for us. You know, other cities and even us say, well, let the other cities take on this burden, right? Let them have the scary word we always hear, high density, right? And so I think I was even talking to McKay. I think we need to come up with a new term, urban density or something. I don't know, because it scares people in this community a lot when they hear of this, you know, high density of 25 units per acre. But we have to realize that this is sometimes our family that's living there, or our kids and things like that. So that, right, we have to weigh all those things as a community, and because there are people in this community that just they don't want high density or urban density or whatever we want to call it, and so it makes it hard, and they want to push it off onto other cities and have them do their part. I know we're only talking about specific things here, and so that's kind of where I'm at on this. You know, I know we're not supposed to talk about potential site plan and all that. That is a hard space to work with, right? Especially with the road going through and it mixes it up. I appreciate doTERRA's words there too. They do have a lot of parking stalls out there, right? Because they have a lot of employees that come in and work there every day. And so I was curious to why, I think I'm I don't want to put words in your mouth, is parking is probably the big issue, is what I heard from you. Okay. And so I just wanted to, that's what I heard, is some of the issues was the parking and the traffic. Well, we're going to have traffic, folks, and our intersection's getting busier and busier out there, and it's a good thing to deal with, right? And hopefully the state comes through for us. And so that's my comments.
Thanks, Eric. You know, this is a tough one. I'm fighting for economic development. We need a tax base. If I take away the site plan, which we have to take away the site plan, because we're ruling on just an overlay, there's 4 things that I've written down that I think the council we need to discuss. Number 1, we're asking to rezone sales commercial property to multi-unit housing. Number 2, our parking is going to be less than 2 units per stall, which is our standard in our current code. We're going to be adding 262 units, or 800 residents, on a pretty small piece of property. And then we're going to go from 12 units per acre on our code to 25 units per acre. Every resident I talk to say the impact of multi-unit housing in that area is at capacity. From churches to schools, Mount Mahogany Elementary is overloaded because of these multi-unit housing developments. The churches, I was the district advancement chairman for the Timpanogos district, in charge of all of the Eagles and Eagle advancements. That area struggled the very most for BSA, church responsibilities, church leadership. I want our city to be known as a place where they can, right here, that they can come get great food, great services, not where they can rent a $1,500 a month apartment. I love the fact of what that area could be, but those 4 things scare me to death, and I would recommend we vote against it.
Hey, I love it. So I'll start with that, and then I'll go down the reasons why, and then I'll also share some concerns. The streets and the Andersons have populated the world, and we have, my kids want a place to live, and I want my kids here. The housing shortage is, it is real. So I love the combined urban feel. I love that they can walk across the street to the place that they work, which my kids work at. So thank you very much, doTERRA. And so here's my, so first of all, Marty, is there slated to be a light at the 220 Pleasant Grove? Is there going to be a street light there?
So right here, Marty?
Yes. So I love the fact that a developer has come in with, what was it, $6 million worth of improvements? Well, $1 million. $1 million worth of road. So I am concerned about the parking. 2 stalls. All my kids that are married have 2 cars, and they live in small spaces. One thing, and because we are talking about an entire zone, I would love to see that mixed use and retail be the entire frontage. So instead of just having a portion of that, in fact, can you go to the proposed thing that we're not talking about?
But that's the scary part of it.
Yeah.
So
that's what I'm saying.
That's the scary part.
So
we don't know what it's going to look like. We're just changing the overlay.
In an agreement. So that's why I'm talking That's why I'm saying this next sentence. So where that mixed-use building is, where that office is, where the retail is, I would love to see that be the standard on the frontage of the street. That any.
What do you help us understand that?
Okay, so see where up above where the townhomes are.
On one.
I'm saying on the boulevard frontage.
On here.
Instead of having residential strictly, no, that's mixed use. So that's commercial on the bottom.
Yep, and residential on top.
On top. So up above in the yellow where it says townhomes, if that could be that also that mixed use, so that commercial retail was on the frontage with a setback, and I don't know why 5 feet makes a difference. Wasn't it? Okay, got it. Okay. So I would be very interested in maybe a, frontage conversation that was strictly commercial.
And that's for a future date, because this is just.
No, I'm saying this would be an overlay conversation. So if we were going to have, yes. Right.
Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, it's set back.
Thank you. Thank you. Lynn?
I've changed back and forth a couple of times. Some good input. I think we need to let Daniel have his shot and tell us what you can do with it and what changes we do need to make. Parking bothers me and the high density. Been through that a couple of times. Nasty.
My feeling is if this project stayed within the current code of 12 units per acre, 2 units per 2 parking stalls per unit, all of the residential, all of the commercial, this would be a great community.
But our code doesn't.
It does.
This is straight commercial now.
No.
Well,
no, but you can have 12 units per acre.
No.
Not in commercial.
No, this isn't mixed use. You're thinking up on State Street up there.
So could we change the overlay for 12 units per acre? Because that would be more in tune with what the townhouses are providing currently.
I just don't think that'd be. I'm being devil's advocate here, right? I just don't think that'd be viable for developers, right? That's why I think that's why we, in the past, we changed to that, and I think that's why we saw it come to a complete stop, right? Because we had a lot of citizens, right? That's why I was talking that we get inundated by citizens telling us no more high density, and I think that's why in the past the previous city council did the 12, and so yeah.
And I owe my vote to current residents, not future.
I think Sid wanted to talk. Oh, sorry.
Okay, Eric, do you want to see if you can get Sid in there and let her?
Okay, Sid, you're up.
We have a council member. For those who don't, we have a council member who is not here this evening.
Can you hear me?
Yep. We got you, Sid.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Excuse me. I agree with Todd. I'd be willing to look at a 12 unit per acre, but 26 unit per acre, I think in that area, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Yes. Yep.
Okay. Is way too much. And it's a safety concern for me as far as the congestion and traffic. I think we have adequate housing for our community. We have senior housing, multifamily housing, low income, high income, single family residential. at some point, my job is not to be a realtor for housing. It's to provide a better tax base for our residents that are currently paying into the system. And they deserve restaurants, they deserve a place to shop, and they cannot do that with every apartment building that is built in our city that brings us no sales tax revenue. And to improve our community, you have to have that source of funding. And every time we build an apartment complex, we lose that source of funding. And I understand the housing issue because I have an 18-year-old that will in a few years be looking for a place to live. But I believe with the housing we have in our community, we are at capacity, like Todd says. And now it's time to focus on commercial and retail. And 800 units, or 800 people, 262 units with about 800 people estimated is way too much for that area. And I'm with Todd. I'm willing to look at a different type of overlay with 12 units an acre, and I cannot justify that many units per acre when I've also made a commitment to the people of Pleasant Grove that I will not continue to vote for high-density housing when they are desperate and they've been paying property taxes into our city, and they deserve sales tax revenue, and they deserve a place to shop and eat with their families. So I'm in agreement with Todd. I'm willing to look at something a little bit different. But as it currently stands, I would not vote for the 26 units an acre. I think that would be very detrimental to our community. The parking is an issue, the traffic is an issue, the congestion, the impact it does have to schools, and so that's where I stand right now.
So I have a question. So would you accept a lower density, or you're just saying no density? All right, Eric, would you accept a
Well, I think
lower
we'd have to
density?
pull McKay up here and even talk, see if that's even a reality.
Well, I'm
right?
just
I
saying, we're just talking overlay right now.
I've always been open to this project and discussing what we can do, yeah.
I love the restaurant aspect.
This overlay, sorry.
It's the overlay that scares me, and we're changing.
But there's
Yeah,
no
but
there's
really
no other
not. I mean,
pieces
yeah,
that
we
are this
are, but-
that big. So
Sorry.
we're
Go
only
ahead.
talking about the only piece
Really
that
quick.
qualifies.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Go ahead.
Okay, Zed,
Okay.
you got the floor again.
That was the other issue, is that it's not just one area. We are now changing a lot of acres for this entire zone, and someone else could come in tomorrow and propose a multifamily development, and we're taking up more prime property for apartments and townhomes than we are for retail, and every time we do that, we lose that sales tax. So again, I'm in agreement with Todd that it's not just one small portion, it's an entire zone we are changing, and all of that is prime property. And I'm confident that once that hotel goes vertical, and once we start seeing even more growth than we're experiencing right now, we will have people that won't need to build high density, that they'll just come in with their restaurants, and they'll come in with their businesses, that we won't need that high density. They'll be knocking our door down to build here, and I don't think we need more apartments to do that.
So just for clarification, there are no other pieces along either of the boulevards that this fits. So we are specifically talking about this piece.
I think North County Boulevard might have some pieces.
Right.
Well, if you were to take the recommendation
From the Planning Commission.
and include Boulevard, you would be talking about other pieces of property. As it currently sits, you're correct. This is probably the only one on Pleasant Grove Boulevard, but that doesn't prohibit
So we could
people from combining projects and things in the future.
Okay.
Or redevelopment,
That's
which,
redevelopment.
yeah, I mean, this,
And then using this as an example, why North County Boulevard should be rezoned on a overlay.
This rezone, we're not setting how many units per acre.
we are, yes.
We are.
So that is on the table, and that is part of the
A
discussion.
maximum to a minimum?
And so, I mean, part of the feedback we're looking from city council is if there is a number you have in your mind that we need to sit back down with the developer, and if the developer, I mean, we don't have to settle that tonight. We can sit back down with McKay, and because he's the applicant and he's the one looking to eventually apply this, but we can have that discussion. And if the city council says 20 is as high as we're going to go, we have the discussion with him. If they say it's 12 or 15, we have the discussion. And if he comes back and says that's not going to pencil for me, then we bring that back to you and say, he's got to have 25 in order for this project to go. And then you have the decision right then and there whether that's a yes or a no. So for the purposes of tonight, we still have a little bit of discussion that we can have to kind of massage that a little bit.
Hey, Marty, can you go back a few pages for me? Somewhere. No, now go forward. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Right. This one right here. Okay, so as I read residential ratio proposed by the applicant, 25 units per acre. Current city code is not allowed, but then we have 12 max units per acre. What does that mean?
Okay. It means that we have 3 sub-districts in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So one sub-district, which is not this one, we allow residential, and the maximum we have in that sales commercial
no, it's called the mixed housing.
The mixed housing. Okay.
Go back to the one.
Yeah, we don't have a zone in the city that allows more than 12 units an acre. I think that's what we were.
Got it. Okay.
So that's
Okay.
the maximum that we have allowed. That's our high density. How we consider high density here in the city.
Yeah, we allow it here. Well, I mean, these were all done, but this area here, now this area is currently in process of being rezoned. This was an overlay created to accommodate their development, which allowed a higher density with the requirement that they brought retail on their frontage. So that's the neighborhood Walmart and then that strip mall.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so these.
So these units right here are all 12?
No, these were done before we zoned that.
What are they? Do you know?
16, 18.
16 and 18.
Yeah. So I have a question. So what if we lifted the height and he could go higher? No, he could just go higher. So instead of, no, I'm saying, so if you could have more retail, okay, go to the proposed site plan that I'm not looking at. Okay, so what if so let's say the yellow over here or the orange, what if that was the total footprint of apartment and townhome? They just went up. And then you could have more, so I'm not talking about units an acre right now.
Okay.
I'm talking about getting more retail space in here.
Okay.
So if the footprint of the apartments was able to go higher, that would free up the other land to be spent on commercial. Would you be, and even if we did like a, well, even if he kept his units per acre, would that be appealing?
Residents.
So I want my kids to live in Pleasant Grove. I really do. I want my kids to live here. And right now, my kids are in that transitional place where they're leaving my home, but they're not ready to buy an old traditional, home on a quarter acre. So I'm trying to figure out, I think there's a win-win here, but I'm just wondering, if we want more commercial, could the housing portion of it go higher? We would have to raise our limit, because what is it right now, 35 feet?
Oh, actually, for commercial building, well, in this case, what you want to raise is residential.
A residential?
65.
65, as long as there's a garden on top. Does that, so that's 6 floors.
Sorry, that's what the applicant
5
wants
floors.
That's what the applicant wants to go to. Wants to go to 65. The top right now is 48.
Okay, so like if we did say, so a percentage of the overlay of the 10 acres, a percentage of it, the square, the footprint has to be commercial, but then you get so much of a percentage of footage that where you could go up and have living.
You know, he's already asking to go up higher than what we currently allow. So currently it's 48 feet, right? Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, so
and he's asking to go 65 in the open.
Sorry, all right, let me tell you this. About height, sorry again. So right now we have two different heights in the zone, okay? So if we go with office buildings over there, they can go up to 100 feet. Office building, not retail, just a single office building, all of them 100 feet, okay? And everything that has residential, either residential by itself or mixed use, the cap is 48. And the applicant is proposing to go about 60, 65. So yes, it's going higher than what residential allows, but not higher than what office building will allow.
So, Mari, can we go back? I'm going to make you work tonight, sorry. Go back to the slide where it actually shows you the dotted line that's affecting. Yes, back one. Why, if we're only talking about this one parcel here, right, why did we include this all the way down if it only affects this one area?
Okay, because there's a principle, it's called spot zoning. And me as the planner, I recommend never to spot zone, never create something. Now, like Scott said, in the future, can any of these parcels redevelop? Yeah, sure, and we're okay with it. Well, that's what staff is okay with it. Now, in reality, is that
they still have to apply.
For sure.
Overlay.
I just think if it's spot zoning, whether we want to admit it or not, right? Because if you can't do it in here, we might as well just be honest with ourselves and say it's just right here. That's just my opinion. Sorry.
Proposed.
It has to be over 10 acres, right?
5 acres. 5. It's 5 acres.
5 acres.
Yeah.
So five is what the applicant proposed at the beginning,
Mhm.
but then later on, as we work on the stuff, it's 10 feet, 10 acres. Sorry, 10
So
acres.
10 acres. Okay.
So can I maybe help clarify a little bit, because I think we're getting a little confused.
Yeah, we'd welcome that. Thank you.
So what you have in front of you is an ordinance that is being proposed and was drafted by the applicant, Mr. Christensen. In this proposal, he is proposing to create an overlay zone that could be applied to all of the area in the dotted lines. He's made a couple of restrictions in there. Number one, he says that it has to have frontage on Pleasant Grove Boulevard. Number two, there has to be at least 5 acres in order to ask for the overlay to be applied. Number three, you may go up to 25 units per acre in the overlay. Number four, residential will go up to 65, is that correct? Or higher than what we currently allow? Okay, so, and he's also suggesting his parking ratio be lower, right? Through the process of going to the Planning Commission looked at his proposal and has some suggested recommendations. One recommendation is that instead of a 5-acre requirement, that the council make it a 10-acre requirement.
That's where I'm reading it.
One recommendation is to increase the parking ratio to a higher standard. And so what staff is saying, what we're trying to get from the council is, are you interested in allowing an overlay zone to be crafted that increases density to some number, either the 25 units per acre that's being proposed or some other number? We're asking you not to vote tonight to adopt this ordinance, unless you like everything about it. If you like everything about it, you're free to do that. But we're asking to get some feedback so that then staff, meaning Daniel, can meet with Mr. Christensen and perhaps come up with an ordinance that is some combination of these things that you're talking about. Does that
Yes,
help?
yes. So I'll address that. So I like the recommendation of 10 acres. I don't like it being applied to North County Boulevard. I like us being able to work with McKay and talking about the units, right? If he's open to that. And having discussion about parking. There we go.
That helps. Is there anything else the council wants us to address as we talk further with him?
So mine would be that we continue it and allow staff to work with McKay and work towards a better solution.
But what I heard from Eric was look at the density and look at parking. Is there anything else? Because the 10 acres is just your call, and the Pleasant Grove Boulevard, North County Boulevard, that's your call. That's not going to really affect him. But in regards to his specific project.
Because on North County Boulevard, I don't know how many acres, I don't know how many lots are there meet this 10. I just don't right now, so.
Well, yeah, I have no problem with that. I don't want to get in the habit of taking our prime commercial real estate in the Grove and turning it all into mixed use. I think that's a dangerous and slippery slope. So I am open on this property because of its funkiness, and you know, it's a funky property. I totally get it, and I love the restaurants. I've been to all of them. I love them. So I'm totally for that type of a project, but it's the density and the parking that has me hung up.
And I would agree with all of that, and I would add that I would love to have retail be along the frontage.
Okay.
Is the council thinking of a number on density, a ratio that you guys can give me some direction on it?
Let me step in for a sec. I prefer that we go back to the developer. He's hearing this discussion, and so he knows where you're at. And let's have staff kind of work that out and bring a proposal back to you. Let's get everything worked out to a point that if that's the number we're stuck on, then we'll negotiate that in our next meeting.
Thanks.
But we'll try to get that to a point.
Thanks, Daniel.
Hey, okay, well, are you through?
Well, I'm asked Sid. Sid, are you okay? Still alive, I don't know. Had shoulder surgery yesterday, so that's why
the morphine kicked in.
No, I'm here. I'm not medicated quite yet.
Do you have anything else, Sid?
I'm not out for the night yet. Yeah, I agree. I'm open to discussion, but I'm in agreement with parking and density as an issue. So I'm willing to have a discussion. So yeah, I'm in agreement with the parking and density discussion.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Sid. Council, anything else?
Can I just do something out of order? McKay, are you okay with that? Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Sorry.
Okay. Okay.
I just wanted to make sure McKay didn't say I'm out of here.
Since I think I'm still the mayor. Marty, can you go up a couple of where just the bare land is showing, not all the colors? No, the one that just has the aerial. I think it's the next one right there. No.
About the lines?
Right there. Okay. I just want to make a comment here as your mayor. This is like, and I'm glad you said this is really a unique and funky and really screwed up piece of property, okay? And we got a developer who really wants to make this go, but you know, if we wanted to just abandon, not have this road through here, which we don't want to do, then that changes this property and we can put more commercial there, okay? And
why do we want the road there? Just so that everybody knows.
well, Marty, would you address that?
We've had discussions, is this working? We've had discussions about that road going through that property previously. There is a value to having a road network that goes through. Right now, everybody that comes to the 220 South Pleasant Grove Boulevard intersection, if the road did not go through, they would have to dogleg to get over to 13th West. There's also a trail system that's kind of planned through that area. The trail comes down 220 South. That would be accommodated in previous discussions where the trail would have to be accommodated regardless of a road network. But the concept was there is a value to having the road there. It's on our current master plan as a collector street. South is an arterial street. I think beyond this point, I believe it goes into a collector street. provides for more ability to navigate through the system without having to jog and get to different areas. And Pleasant Grove Boulevard if we don't have it. So we're suggesting to keep it. Done otherwise, we've talked about that before, but it does come at a cost. So there has to be a huge value in order for us to say what.
And we don't know what would go there. But if we, that's an expensive piece of road, and he knows that. And to make it work, that's why he's asking density and mixed use. And I think the only way this is going to work is with the mixed use along that piece. If we think, well, we're just going to hold off, and this will be commercial, and we'll get a bunch of restaurants in there, just the way that's configured, and it is, I won't see it in my lifetime. Okay, that's just my opinion there. So I think we just need to be forward-thinking and really see what's really the things have changed in the real estate market, and especially with the millennials, or whatever, or what do we call them? It's not millennials anymore.
The Anderson kids.
The Anderson kids, okay. The ex-kids, so anyway, so that's your mayor's 2 bits there. I think we really need to study this and get something that'll work in there, or we're just going to be looking at that for a long time.
Hey.
So, sorry, just
Go ahead,
as
Scott.
staff, we'd recommend that you continue the item.
Okay.
One other issue that I can handle with the council's understanding is that we're under contract with McKay to buy our property from us, which we own that piece right there. And we'll need to extend our due diligence time for us to continue to work through this for a few months. So that if this project goes away, then that contract's going to go away.
Is this a conflict of interest, or are we okay here?
Well,
we're selling
if
our
we're going to
land.
entertain this,
Okay.
then we need to extend our due diligence period.
Is there
I'm just saying, us having this conversation,
I would prefer that you talk about real estate matters, pending real estate.
okay.
If you want to talk about extending the contract.
No, I'm saying selling property and talking about the proposed development on it. Anyway. Okay.
Okay.
We all right?
Okay.
Is there a certain date we want, or just a date uncertain?
So it's a public hearing. And then let's.
Okay. Do I make a motion to that effect?
When's our next meeting?
Yeah, what is our date?
August 7th.
It won't be done by August 7th.
So the 21st?
The 21st I'll feel more comfortable. But so what I'm getting here is that given I've drafted a better ordinance. That takes some time.
Okay.
Okay. Good. I'm good with that.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to continue ordinance 2018-16, amending chapter 14, the Grove zoning district, to create an overlay zone that provides for flexibility in creating master plan communities that incorporate commercial, office, and mixed-use buildings, as well as an area of housing types, to August 21st.
We have a motion by Councilman Jensen.
Second.
Second by Councilperson Anderson. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We'll move on to our next item. Thank you for those who have come for this public hearing. Well, now, hey, stick around. We still have one more public hearing.
It's only going to get funner.
More fun.
We'll get to this next public
funny.
hearing and then we'll take a break. So anyway, we'll now move to item 9B, our public hearing to consider the adoption of ordinance 2018-18, amending the vicinity plan for future local roads terminating 2840 North. Marty, we'll turn it over to you.
Mayor, Council, glad to be able to present this item to you tonight. Daniel did a great job at Planning Commission with this item, but he had a lot on his plate tonight, so he asked me if I would present this item. Now, I've been working with it and with Daniel and with the applicant here. We've had an application from, I believe it's Magleby, is it Chad Magleby Construction, to work on a vicinity plan amendment. As you know, a number of years ago, the city went through and we adopted a vicinity plan for properties that had been undeveloped. And the idea of that vicinity plan is to be able to just make sure that we don't landlock people into property and that they have access to roads and utilities. And that's the kind of the goal of the vicinity map. So not working that great, but so in the idea of this property that we're looking at here off of 2600 North, the vicinity plan that was drafted a number of years ago for that property, there's right now about 7 acres in these two parcels. This one's about 6 acres, this one's about 2.3 acres. There is an existing home, or was an existing home about 2 weeks ago at that location. I believe has that been taken down? It's in the process. So they're working on taking down this home. And there is one owner now that owns this approximate 7 acres, 6.3 acres. The vicinity map that was previously drafted in trying to determine how to get a road network and provide for access up to 2600 North and development of this property essentially had 2 roads that connected up. More of a concept, currently this is in the RR zone, so half-acre lots minimum. And so these would either be R120 or RR size lots or half-acre lots. And so what they're proposing to do is change this vicinity plan and remove this road network that comes through here, as we now have one applicant or one owner of all of the property that really is mostly affected here. Now, saying that, there are 3 current homes off of 2600 North, approximately 1 acre lots that sit here, here, and here. And then this home here is currently owned by the owner there too, so same owner. And so what they're asking to do is to remove this, which does remove an ability for these 3 property owners to be able to develop. However, as you can see, all of the road, all of the infrastructure would have had to been constructed on this piece of property to make it viable in the first place. So this one property owner, if he was coming in to develop the property, would be putting in the road and getting that done. And then these properties, because they're already at about 1 acre each, would essentially not have a lot of property that they could actually give to a project of this nature. And so really the impact is mostly to one property owner. That's kind of in short, that's what they're looking to do, is amend the vicinity plan in order to remove this road network through here and have this be a permanent termination of 2480 North. So the question is how do we do that? So roads have to terminate. We have to have turnarounds for emergency vehicles, snow plows, delivery trucks, and so we have to have adequate turnaround areas in order to do that. Our typical turnaround is in anywhere else you see a dead-end road or cul-de-sacs, right? And that's what we have in our standards. However, there's quite an impact of doing that, and the applicant has made a request that we make a concession here on a different type of a turnaround, one that still meets all of the requirements for emergency turnaround vehicles, other vehicles, delivery vehicles, but yet doesn't have so much of an impact just onto his property of putting 112-foot radius, diameter cul-de-sac all on the end of the road. And so what we have is really 4 options that have been looked at as options for completing the road network. So this is terminated where it currently ends today. And then is there an adequate turnaround area that could be use to be able to turn around the vehicles. Now, this is a knuckle, and knuckles, when this was constructed, it's not a full cul-de-sac, so your radius is not big enough to be able to do this. This is what the applicant is proposing to do. They would like to have this be the kind of the hammerhead turnaround option for emergency vehicles. We looked at 4 options as we kind of went through that. This is kind of more of a concept of what the applicant submitted as far as a home that would be built. They would be coming in eventually with a subdivision plat, which would subdivide off this into one lot, and then the rest of this would all be just one lot. And so this is their preferred alternative that they're proposing, and this has been before Planning Commission. I'll let Daniel speak to that in a minute after I talk about the 4 options. So this is the one option and the preferred option for the applicant. As we looked at other options, quickly I just kind of drew in what a cul-de-sac would look like if we modified the knuckle to be a cul-de-sac. And you can see that there's quite a bit of impact to all of the property. These are all now fully developed, improved homes. And so that would have quite an impact into these properties. So in this instance, if we said, well, a cul-de-sac had to be constructed here, there would be property acquisition, all of that to take care of, modifications to existing infrastructure and landscaping to be able to handle that. So that was one option. Option 3, which option 4 is kind of the one that they're proposing here. Option 3 would be to put a hammerhead at the end of the existing road that would still not have, again, the impact of a full cul-de-sac here in that area, but would be able to be handled with more of what we require for our flag lots, and also something that we recently did on 200 North, if you remember, with the costume craze issue, that they were allowed to do this type of a concept at option 3. And so this is the revised. So tonight what we're asking you to do is to consider a revision to our vicinity map that would allow for an alternate dead end of that street. The road network through the plan would be removed as is shown here, and there would be an adequate turnaround being provided by the applicant at that location. Now right now they're proposing for the turnaround to be in the knuckle, and based on our review of that, it can be handled in the knuckle with that hammerhead concept without any modifications to the existing infrastructure. However,
and on that property.
So if we're looking at this, I'm saying this option works, and this actually, we went and re-looked at this and kind of refined it after we got some more information. We can stay within the existing right-of-way here and still be able to get the hammerhead to work without needing to restrict parking or anything of that nature. That being said, from engineering standpoint, yes, we've got to turn around. The thing is we've got to help people understand how to use it, right? So if let's say that there are cars parked all the way around that knuckle, and you got all these driveways that are open, right? The driveways aren't going to have cars parked. They still got to be able to know, okay, I'm going to pull up back around here. Most people, probably not a problem. The occasional moving truck, maybe somebody with a trailer that's trying to turn around, maybe they don't get the picture of how to they're going to try to flip around the cul-de-sac and they're not going to have enough room to do it, type of a thing. However, I think there is a way to get it to work. We can meet all of the requirements for fire and for emergency vehicles, as well as just sort of typical moving trucks, other things of that nature, with that option.
So Marty, go back to the whole plot there. Question I have, knowing that property real well. Intention of the applicant to bring an access road back up to the 2600, say for emergency fire access or something in that.
So there will be, as we've talked with them, there is a plan to. So this is their current access off of 2600 North. If you go up there, it's 20 feet down right off of this location. There is a road that comes down. They are planning to have a road that this is their main access for their property. And that would come through, and there would be an access off the dead end, and there would be an access that went through that
that
I was
direction.
wondering, was there any plans to bring something down on the east side of the property down this way?
So both sides?
Past Britton's house right there, the old house there.
So there is a planned lane to come down off of
There would
this
be a lane
location.
there to come back. Well, that would give some emergency access there too, right?
That's all private, right?
All
So
private.
we aren't recommending that we require crash gates and an emergency access easement and a road-based construction. That's something that they're planning to do with their site plan, so they have access to their site. But I guess that could be considered as far as a recommendation that if they provide the emergency access route, that could be one of the things required.
Kind of like the Scow property?
Yeah, and they've done it to be able to get that through there, so. One of the concerns that I have, just straight out, is it's really difficult to turn around a snowplow right now. So, a little training, but we have a difficult time plowing this little stub street. So, I think that's something that we need to work out as far as how that would get plowed. Right now, I don't believe we do any more than maybe push that quickly to the end and leave it. And so now that there's going to be an access at that location, it's going to be more difficult for us to do that.
But is that going to be the main driveway?
It's, yeah, they're going to have two accesses, right? One off of 2600 North and one off of this one. So, yeah. So that is a concern, though. We do have a tough time in that cul-de-sac with our large snow plows to get it cleaned. We have a tough time in all cul-de-sacs, honestly. If there's any cars parked in it, we have a tough time getting those big trucks maneuvered around. So I don't know that this is really any different, but going to the dead-end road for that 150 feet or so, that one is difficult for us to be able to push. So it's something that we would have to work through. Like Daniel, is there anything from Planning Commission as far as their recommendation on this that you would like to discuss?
Hammerhead. Yeah.
So Daniel, let me just make sure that I understand what you just said. So they recommended, the Planning Commission recommended option 4, not option 3. Okay. Even though option 3 probably would alleviate all of the concerns of snowplow and turnaround and all that kind of stuff. Okay.
Questions, council? Okay, thanks, Marty. If that is, would the Magabas like to speak in part for the owner? Tell us what you're doing there, anyway.
Yeah, Chad Magaby with
I know it's
Magaby Construction.
a big secret, but you know we got to know.
That's no secret. It's right there. Yeah, we've worked closely with the owner, who's a huge advocate of Pleasant Grove, a lot like Diana. He wants to live here. He could live anywhere in the county. He wants to be in Pleasant Grove. He wanted his business to be in Pleasant Grove, and we've worked, I think, to create some solutions that would allow him to feel comfortable living here in this property. That's kind of what we see here. We've worked hard to, I think, maintain turnaround and knuckle that would keep Marty and the city happy, and also, you know, on our own private land, allow access points in the case of real emergency that would happen to gain access to have those critical kind of needs met if the time and place required. So I think it's a great solution, and I know the applicant would love approval tonight to move forward so we can continue to develop the property for them. Questions for me on what we've done?
Property, especially the bottom pasture area there, so Greg, we're happy he's tied.
I'll do that. Thank you. Questions?
Okay, we'd like to open it up for public discussion, an open public hearing. Any of those who'd like to come forward and with any concerns, or we'll give you 3 minutes a person, so please come forward on that now. Since we don't have a great rush for the podium, we will declare the public hearing now closed, and we'll bring it back up to the council.
Well, it sounds like a lot of it was discussed with a few residents that live by, and it sounds like they resolved those issues. So, okay.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay, let's do it.
Mayor, I make a motion to adopt ordinance 2018-18, amending the vicinity plan for future local roads by terminating 2480 North near property located at approximately 1101 West, 2600 North in the R&R rural residential zone.
I'll
have a motion by Councilman Williams.
Second.
I have a second. I have a second by Councilperson Anderson. This is a roll call vote. Sid, are you still with us?
She just texted. She was taking a break for a minute, so I think.
Okay. Well, we're good. We got. We can.
We'll call her back then. Okay.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Walker.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
It passes. We'll wait. Soon. We'll get Sid's vote on that later. I guess we can do that.
She's left the meeting, so just make a note in the record that she's no longer.
Okay, you got that, Kathy? Thank you. So, okay, thank you. We appreciate you, and we would now like, I'd like to motion to adjourn for 5 minutes for a break.
Mayor, so moved, yeah. Second.
You have a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Just as a reminder, we keep streaming during this time, so you will want to mute your mic.
Okay.
That would be me specifically.
We won't talk about Diana.
So you know, Diana, that's who she was talking about.
She's live or not?
Not me now, this is Scott. So. I'll go get my
So I've read a bunch of studies this week. I've read some things where you get in.
asked him before the meeting, I said, I get too low. You can fill out the whole building, huh? You can fill a building. 37. Well, I don't see any problems with that one. You should be okay with that. That should be an easy one. Next item. Thank you.
Manages a relative term. This morning I weeded his garden.
Hey, well, hey, whatever. Hey, it's about so we I was supposed with Jimmy Fredette from Foundation for us and choose kind of stuff and stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, that's why I'm here. I just wanted to.
You go report to him and say we
took care of it.
Okay, you good? I gotta eat more, man. I'm just hungry.
I know, I had to go get me another sandwich. Hey.
I got my charger there. She keeps texting me, I'm gonna run out of battery too.
his negotiation. Yeah. That's why I said, are you still okay? Yeah. Because I want this to happen. Right. I still want it.
I'd like to call the meeting back to order. We'll now move to our action items that are ready for vote this evening, and we'd like to move to 10C. Since first, thought that'd make some people happy here. Other than we can put you to the last too. Okay.
Can we just make a motion?
So we'll move into 10C. Consider adoption of Resolution 2018-040, authorizing the mayor to sign a contract between Pleasant Grove City and Center Stage Youth Performers for the purpose of establishing the terms and cooperation between the two entities, providing for an effective date. Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. To adopt Resolution 2018-040, authorizing the mayor to sign a contract between Pleasant Grove City and Center Stage Youth Performers for the purpose of establishing the terms of cooperation between the two entities and providing for an effective date.
Second.
I have a motion, I have a second. This is a roll call vote. I have a Council Member Anderson.
Yes.
Council Member Jensen.
Yes.
Council Member Lamone.
Take off mute.
We'll get her later. Council Member Walker.
Yes.
Council Member Williams.
Yes.
Passes. Thank you. Hey, we did it. Would you like to say anything? Well,
No, thanks for being here.
Well, thank you.
Thanks for being part of the city, and
hey,
I can't thank you enough. I know. Sorry.
Because we wanted your input.
Be wise. Run now.
We could.
Taco Amigo still has strawberry shakes.
Okay. We'll move back up to item 10A. Consider request for construction for 11-acre subdivision plat called Hawks Landing Plat A on property located approximately 2793 North Canyon Road in the RR residential zone.
Council, Mayor, I don't know how to talk about this one since it's more controversial than the last two ones.
You're kidding.
Nah. So what we have right here is a subdivision plat. It's a new subdivision plat. The applicant is already in construction in the RR rural residential zone, meaning every lot is at least half an acre lots. But they did something that we called lot averaging. Not all the lots are half acre lots. Some of them are bigger, some of them are less. But when we average all of them, and all of them, the 25% you're allowed to do, then you end up with half acre lots. Can we go to the next image, Marty, please? So what we have right here, it's a property that is about 7 acres, a little shy than 7 acres. From this property right here, we can see that there's a couple homes already built, developed. We have one right here and 2 homes on this side, on the opposite side. Can we go to the next one, Marty? Like I said, this is in the RR, half acre lots. Go to the next one, and that's how it looks. This is actually this is the preliminary plat. This is the one that has the building envelopes. Again, lot 11 already existed, and it acquired a little bit extra land, but it was already there. There's a home in lot 11. There's a home in lot 1, and there's a home in lot 2. Other than that, we have the rest of our lots with their building envelopes. Can we go to the next one, Marty? Awesome. There we go. So that's the final plat. That's how it's going to look on on the Mylar. So one thing to take into consideration about this is that in order for this to happen, a little more than a year ago, we also amended the vicinity plan. So this proposal meets the criteria of the already adopted vicinity plan, amended and adopted vicinity plan. And another thing to keep into consideration is that right here, in this area, we're going to create an easement because that's going to be the temporary secondary emergency access. So there's going to be a crash gate, a temporary, until people here on 450 West decided to develop, and then we'll have access to right there. Now, the length of the road to get all the way to right here, it's more than what the code says, but an extension was approved by the Planning Commission as a conditional use. So they also obtain a conditional use to have this length of the road. And again, this will be just temporary until eventually, hopefully happens on the mayor's lifetime, as you said before, someone develops this right here, and then we have that temporary exit stops being there. I just hope you live a long life, Mayor. I hope you get to see all this stuff going on. A lot of exciting stuff. So we took this item to the Planning Commission, and it received a unanimous recommendation of approval. I'm ready for questions. That's what I got, Mayor.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Yeah, Mayor, I'll make a motion to consider the, let's see, it's a, to approve artisan construction of an 11-lot subdivision plat called Hawks Landing Plat A on property located at approximately 2793 North Canyon Road in the rural residential zone.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Lynn Walker on the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now I move to 10B. Consider for adoption resolution 2018-039, authorizing the mayor to sign an agreement between Mountain Land Association of Governments, MAG, and Pleasant Grove City for the congregate meals and services providing for an effective date.
Hear from Dion tonight. Mayor and Council, this is our annual Mountain Land Meals on Wheel agreement. Basically, it outlines our responsibility for record keeping, those types of things to support our seniors ages 60 and older at the senior center. It also does include some of the Meals on Wheels that are taken to residents in town. So,
Accuracy. Do we know how many?
do I know how many? Generally, there's about 40 to 60 that are taken to homes, and then that's about what they serve at the center also on a day. Fridays are out, a little down on numbers, and Mondays are a little down on numbers, but most of the time there's about 40 to 60.
What's the cost on that?
To be honest with you, they ask for donations, and most of them give a couple bucks, $3 generally per meal. Yeah, definitely. A lot of the users at the senior center are from Thornberry, and a lot of the times between Meals on Wheels, it's the only meal that they get during the day. And so the seniors have gone out to like Harmon's, some of the big grocery stores, and they get donations, and they'll take that food to some of the people in Thornberry, and then also they can come into the senior center and get that anytime. So.
All right, I'd like to make a motion that we adopt resolution 2018-039.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
Well done.
You're moving things along.
Anna made the motion, in fact. So it's a roll call vote. Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Good.
Yeah, okay. Gotcha.
3 yeses, that's for the next 3 months.
Yeah. Back. Councilmember Walker.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
move to 10D, consider adoption resolution 2018-041, authorizing the mayor to sign a purchase agreement with Pen and Ink LLC to purchase approximately 5.1 acres of real property located at 1199 West, 700 South, Pleasant Grove, Utah, providing for an effective date. And we'll let you address us on 10C if we missed anything, but I think we all understood what that was all about.
That's fine. I just had a whole speech prepared and you guys cut me out of it. No worries.
You snooze, you lose.
I know. Okay. Mayor and council, the resolution before you is to authorize the mayor to execute a purchase agreement. The city is purchasing approximately 5.1 acres of property adjacent to the Pen and Ink, close to my Heart building on, we all know where it is, but let's see. Yeah, 7th South and 1199 West. This piece of property is one that we have been planning on. It has been on our radar for purchase for several years in order to construct a storm drain detention facility there that will take quite a bit of the drainage from the properties up north. Probably the only thing that you need to be aware of, in addition to the purchase price, which is $770 a foot, which equals $1,710,482, is that it does not come with the water. The water is being held out, so we're buying the property only. And then the other thing is we had the property appraised. The sellers had an opinion of value from a real estate agent. We have reached an agreement as to what the fair market value is. However, in consideration for coming down on their price, we have agreed to take their storm water into the detention facility once it's constructed.
All of their property or just their current plot?
Just, my understanding is it's just that piece, just that parcel, right?
Oh, okay.
Right.
And I guess we don't need the water. I mean,
no,
we withheld the water rights because we're a retention basin, right?
Right.
We don't want that water, right?
It costs them money to get rid of their water.
That's right. Yeah.
So
okay.
I think it should be clarified that we're not saying that we're not requiring water on their development.
Right.
Just not with this 5 acres.
Water rights.
With no water.
Agreed. Right. Yeah, we get it.
So right now, that little bottom piece, as you see it stubbing out, actually goes right to the future line. Wiring to that right of way right there. There'll be some temporary access right now along the bottom boundary here.
Okay.
Right now,
Any other questions?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
Can I make that motion?
You can do that.
Thank you. I'd like to make the motion that we adopt resolution 2018-041, authorizing the mayor to sign a purchase agreement with Pen and Ink LLC to purchase approximately 5.1 acres of real property located generally at 1199 West, 700 South, Pleasant Grove, Utah, and providing for an effective date.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Roll call vote again. Councilmember Lamone. Thank you. Councilmember Walker.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, we'll now move on to item 10E, consider for adoption resolution 2018-042, authorizing the mayor to sign a license agreement with Provo River Waters Association to allow for a sewer line to be installed across the Provo River Aqueduct, approximately 395 North, Pleasant Grove, providing for an effective date. Marty?
Yes.
How tough was this to get?
Actually, the applicant did a lot of the work, so all we had to do is work on some modifications to their typical agreement. Got it approved, and then now we're bringing it before you. So the development that we're looking at is the Westwood Acres Plat C development. Pull that up really quick. So if you remember a number of months ago, this was approved. We have a finalized plan. They're under construction, and they were required to get easements along. We have the aqueducts that run along the Provo River Aqueduct, the big 10-foot Murdoch Canal pipeline and trail, and they needed to cross with the sewer line for giving service to these 12 lots here across the Murdoch Canal Trail and pipeline. And in order to do that, where it's not, we don't own the right of way, we needed an easement across that. They do that through this license use agreement. This is a request to essentially give us permission to have the pipeline across there. The reason it's our agreement is because that will be a public facility, not a development or a private facility. It is our sewer line that's going to be installed in for those developments and for those homes that will be flowing across that, and so it will be our pipeline. We're fine with the design, access, things of that nature, and can handle that. Now, that being said, there is still another alternative we're working on, and that is to take this sewer line all the way up to Grove Creek. And but right now, the item before you is for the license agreement for crossing the Murdoch Canal Trail at this location. So at the end of 350 North, and we have a manhole that sits here that they're tying into a sewer manhole, and they'll be stubbing it across the canal trail and then running it up this new Murdoch Drive road that they're constructing along here. Our preferred, at some point, we know that the Murdoch Drive will be installed all the way up and connect here. By the way, this project is just probably going to be paved this week. That access is through there, so eventually, when this property develops, that would come down through there. So ideally, we could just run the sewer up through there. I know they're working on that, but if that doesn't happen, this is what needs to be in place for them to be able to proceed. So we're recommending that we approve this agreement. We won't get it signed and actually submit it until we have the other option fully vetted and whether or not it can happen that other direction. If it doesn't, we'll go this direction. If it does, then we won't need to worry about this agreement. But for this situation, it just not ever. So in this case, actually, because of the elevation up on this property, it actually goes above the canal. All of the homes that are being built in that development will be pretty high, so we're able to get it above it. It actually will only have it's in an encased pipe across the top of the pipeline, and about 3 foot of cover is all we'll have on the top of that sewer until it gets across it, and then it'll drop.
3 feet above the canal versus the asphalt.
From the asphalt down to the top of our pipe will be about 3 to 4 feet.
Well, I'll make a slow motion here while you find it. Mayor, I make a motion for adoption of Resolution 2018-42, authorizing the mayor to sign a license agreement with Provo River Water Users Association, PRWA, to allow for a sewer line to be installed across the Provo River Aqueduct at approximately 395 North, Pleasant Grove, Utah, providing for effective date.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Have a second, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes. Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Now she woke up.
Councilmember Walker. Yes. Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. Passing.
I can't believe you're hanging in here. Amazing.
It's not here.
Well, a little bit of medication kind of helps.
Oh, that's what it was.
We can tell. Is that why the jingles?
I'm hanging in there.
Okay, we'll now move to item 10F. Consider for
Adoption Resolution 2018-043, entering into a lease purchase agreement with Lions Bank for police vehicles, fitness equipment, and the amount of $345,000, providing for an effective date. Denise.
So we've been doing these for a couple years now. So we'll be getting 8 police vehicles. The chief would like that if I got him 9 of them. So we'll be getting 8 new police vehicles, $75,000 worth of computer equipment, and we included that in your packet. And then approximately 9 cardio machines for $45,000. Those kind of depend on what the prices are and what we can get. So I put out a bid. Zions Bank was the only one who bid, but we still got a competitive interest rate at 3.29, but they were the only ones that submitted a bid. So, and it's a 3-year term. So, but we can pay it off early if we found some money. So, yeah.
Okay. Have a motion.
I just have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Chief, did we go with the Fords?
Yeah. Yep.
Because they're end up being a lot cheaper for us. Good.
The buyback
Good.
will be
Yeah.
better for them.
Yeah. Perfect. Great. And then the fitness equipment, is that in the public safety building?
That's
Is
in
that
the
in rec
recreation center.
Great.
And they have those on a trade out to keep them up to date and get some of the newest technology and stuff.
All good. That sounds great.
Any other questions for Director Roy?
No, I'll make a motion.
Okay, we have,
I'll make a motion to adopt Resolution 2018-043, entering into a lease purchase agreement with Zions Bank for police vehicles, computers, and fitness equipment in the amount of $345,000 and providing for an effective date.
we have a motion by Councilmember Williams. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Anderson. Although this will be a roll call vote. Councilmember Anderson. Yes. Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Walker.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Thank you. We'll now move on to 10G. Candidate for adoption resolution 2018-044 of the City Council of Pleasant Grove City, Utah County, Utah, amending the comprehensive fee schedule for amending ambulance fees and providing for an effective date.
Yeah, so we adopted our fee schedule with our budget, and a few days later, we received the letter from the Bureau of Emergency Medical Services and Preparedness, and they look at those rates every year for what we can charge for transport, mileage, all sorts of things like that, and so they got that to us on like June 27th. So what we decided to do, because this is a yearly process, is in our fee schedule, under ambulance fees, our adopted fee will just read that we will adopt whatever rate is set by the state of Utah code. Annotated title 26A, A 403 in the administrative rule, R 426A2. So then in the future, when every July 1st, we'll just see what their rates are, and we won't have to be going back if they send it after we've adopted our fee schedule. This will just give us the opportunity to, if they don't change anything, it'll be whatever they're charging, and so we won't have to keep coming back after we've adopted our fee schedule a week later. So it'll just be good. And then they provide us a letter. They provide that to the fire chief, and then that's what we give our billing company, Gold Cross, and that's what we will charge people for ambulance transport and mileage and everything. So
Higher or lower than what they were going to give us?
Well, like right now, if we didn't change this, right now the basic transport was $14.40, and they're changing that transport to $14.90. So those are the things, and there's all sorts of things in here that they change. So we just want to always adopt whatever they've presented to us.
Well, that's $14.90. Is that correct?
No, yeah, $14.40. It's $50 on that per transport.
It's cheaper than
Cheaper than an Uber, yeah. So, but yeah, this will be
I
good
would
for
say
us,
that-
and then we don't have to come back.
I think it was 1,490.
Yeah, it's $1,440 to get a ride in the ambulance. That's if you have a paramedic on the
I won't be calling
ambulance.
you, Chief. For that hang now. Okay. Move on. It's getting late. But anyway,
Right.
any other questions for Director Roy?
Are we all right to make a motion? Okay. I make a motion that we adopt resolution 2018-044 of the City Council of Pleasant Grove, Utah County, Utah, amending the comprehensive fee schedule by amending ambulance fees and providing for effective date.
Sid, would you like to second this one?
Yes, I would. I will second it.
Okay, we got a motion by Anderson, and we have a second by Council Member Lamone. And this is a roll call vote. Proper page. Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Walker.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Now move on to item 10H. No. Yeah.
Yes.
10H. The one we've been waiting for tonight.
Yeah, so a couple of months ago, the City Council adopted a transportation utility fee to be charged to residential units and businesses based on the use of their traffic. Part one of that was an ordinance, part two of that is a resolution. As we have been working on this as staff in the last couple of months, it became clear to us that we needed to make a change to create more of an equitable use or charging of this road fee, particularly with our business community. So the ordinance really has just one small change to it, and then I'll get into what the resolution has. But the ordinance states on page 3 that we were doing the transportation utility fee based upon the average peak day trip ends, which is what the study used. We are still using that guideline, but we are now defining what we call the intensity of use. And so we have taken the verbiage average peak day trip ends out and just used intensity of use. That's all the changes to the ordinance. So if it's okay, I'll get into the resolution, even though there's two separate motions here. What the resolution states is that when it comes to what we are charging the residents for our transportation utility fee, that will not be charging. That will be $8.45 a unit. Our Tier 1 businesses will be paying $41.27 per month, and Tier 2 businesses will be paying $236.05 a month. And then we further defined what a Tier 2 business is. Tier 2 businesses include a gas station convenience store, restaurants with drive-through service, and users with more than 250 parking stalls. Now, churches will be considered Tier 1 users because their higher intensity of use is limited to primarily a single day per week. So we might have some churches that have more than 250 stalls, but they would be considered Tier 1. Tier 1 businesses are all commercial users that are not in Tier 2. So Tier 2 really becomes the standard as to using the criteria on the intensity of use. If they don't qualify for a Tier 2, they are considered a Tier 1 as far as their charge is concerned. So the ordinance just further defines the intensity of use as far as how we are going to view Tier 2 businesses. The resolution defines what a Tier 2 business is and applies that in the charging of that tier to the business community. Did I miss anything, Tina? I think I got it. Any questions?
Yes. So it sounds like we need to maybe keep a open channel to Colliers, right? Because since they were very well represented tonight, and they were representing a lot of maybe new businesses coming in. Because I noticed they had some questions, right? What does this one match? What does this one do? Or they're under the assumption that some of them fell in the upper. So,
well, just to be clear, maybe they didn't. Did they fall in the upper, or was it all in?
No, the particular business in question that sparked all this.
The coffee shop.
Was the coffee shop.
Right.
And so we don't deem that as a restaurant. We deem that as a coffee shop. And so even though they'll have a drive-through, they'll be charged as a Tier 1 business. And so as we've, that's what brought them in here. Now, Beale Street just kind of represented more on a global nature in regards to development in our community. And then, I mean, at the time, if you were here, I had a response that just talks about how we've been dealing with this for a long time. Our city council is very aware of the impact on the business community and been trying their best to get that fee down as low as possible, but stay true to our study, but also, you know, not try to drive business out of town. There's a balance there, and you know, we'll start with where we're at here. I'm sure we'll get some feedback as soon as those bills hit August 1st, and we'll get feedback probably over the course of the next few months. And if there's things that the city council feels we need to change later, then you always have the option of bringing this up at any time to do that. But what we have right now in front of us is, this is where we're at. This is 3 years worth of work culminating to this point, and now it comes time that we need to implement and start collecting the fee. So that's where we are.
Any other questions for Scott? Thanks, Scott, for all your work on this and everyone else involved. And been a long process, and we'll see where this takes us to. So I would like entertain a motion for ordinance number 2018-19.
I'll make the motion. I make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2018-19, amending Title 8, Chapter 10, Transportation Utilities, subsection 4, Transportation Utility Fee of the Pleasant Grove Municipal Code, modifying the language regarding the basis for the business fee assessment for the purpose of undertaking repair, maintenance, and improvement of city streets, establishing an annual review process and related matters, and providing for an effective date.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? Second by Councilmember Jensen. It's a roll call vote. Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Councilmember Walker.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Oh, I missed it, sorry.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
That's unanimously. Thank you. And then we'll move on to 2018-045. Do we have a motion on the resolution?
I'll make the motion that we adopt the resolution 2018-045, rescinding resolution 2018-21, which established a transportation utility fee, and adopting an amended resolution establishing a transportation utility special revenue fund, and adopting a transportation providing for an effective date.
We have a motion by Councilman Walker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Anderson. It's a roll call vote. Councilmember Anderson.
Yes.
Councilmember Jensen.
Yes.
Councilmember Lamone.
Yes.
Councilmember Walker.
Yes.
Councilmember Williams.
Yes.
Passes unanimously. Thank you. And we'll move on now to 10J. Back to our general counsel.
Mayor and Council, I was contacted by Green Construction, who are the contractors working on the doTERRA project, and they are having, they're going to do a rather large cement pour on July 18th, 19th, 20th, and 23rd. Because of the time of year, and because of the size of the pour, and because of the required finish that they need to produce for doTERRA, they feel like they need to start pouring about 3 o'clock in the morning. And so they've asked for a permit to exceed the noise ordinance by starting at 3 o'clock rather than 7 a.m., which is when our daytime decibel levels go into effect. So they're basically asking for the permission to start early and not to exceed the decibel levels of the daytime rather than the nighttime. So one of the conditions of approval on the permit is that they notify the affected residents in the area 24 hours at least prior to beginning the pour. She's already taken flyers around. There's only about 5 or 6 houses that are involved, but she's already done that. And then the other restriction is that they are to use their best efforts to reduce the amount of noise as much as possible. And they will also be required to stay within the daytime decibel level, which is 85 decibels.
What is the nighttime decibel?
I don't have it in front of me in this permit, but I believe it's 65.
It's kind of 65 to 85. That's kind of where we're going.
It depends on the zone you're in as well. Since they are in a commercial zone, it's a little bit louder. It's a little bit higher. If they were in a strictly residential zone, it's like 60 and 50 or something like that.
I'm trying to picture where this property is. Is it down 1300 West? It's that new building up 1300 West and something.
The medical office on
the other
it's the medical
corner.
On the other corner.
Are there houses there?
There's some on down 1300 West towards 7th South. There are ways, but
okay.
Just as a courtesy, we thought they ought to be notified.
Yeah, absolutely. It's west of 13.
Any other questions? Thank you, Tina. I'd like to have a motion.
Mayor, I make a motion for approval of the permit to exceed the noise ordinance for green construction on July 18th, 19th, 20th, 23rd to begin construction at 3 a.m.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Walker. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you.
We were listening.
Sid, you aye on that?
Yep.
Okay, passes unanimously.
Aye.
Okay. Little delayed here on the far end.
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll move back up to our item that we missed in our
work session
on the property across the street here.
So we have a piece of property that the city owns, which is just across the street over here. Right now being rented from the city. Valshi Boutique is who is using it. That contract has come due, and we've sent them a letter with the intent that we would like to use the property as a city. And they have paid their rent up through the end of July, so they're just there for a couple more weeks. She was getting ready to discontinue her business, I think, Tina. Tina's the one who talked with her on the phone. But what has happened now is, as of August 1st, we will have the use of that building back as a city. And we are looking for feedback from the city council as to what your desires are. Just as a couple option, one would just be city use for whether it's departments, commissions, boards as a meeting space, or if we are interested in finding somebody else to come in and lease it and put a business or something there, we would have to do a review. I'm not sure what the condition of the building is as far as that being viable, but with that being said, we're open to whatever thoughts you have.
And I would love to. It's the old city,
The
old library.
City Hall, old library, just right across the street.
What is the condition of the city? Or the city condition of the building?
It is.
I don't know, Dion. It's been a while since I've been in it, but.
Has Valshi been in there for 6 years?
A boutique.
Yeah, that was
15, 16. At least, I would say even more than that.
It's from a historical.
It's gorgeous.
It's a gorgeous building. We've really probably ought to put some money in it and try to keep it up.
I've got some ideas, and I agree with that. It is a beautiful home. Well, it's a beautiful building. We do have some, and I think, and I've talked with Sid about this, we have the Beautification Commission and we have the Historic Commission that meet once a month, and I think they just need a really good conference table. We also have a wonderful, beautiful group in town, Follow the Flag, and this has grown. They're doing some really cool things. We've got almost a week-long celebration now that they run with. They haven't asked anything from the city except for maybe some help up at the trailhead. And maybe that's wrong. Maybe Dion could clarify that. But they really need a space as well. So I would love to have it be for those commissions, and then open it up also for a Follow the Flag conversation.
Strawberry Days, right?
And Strawberry Days.
How many square feet is in the building?
I'd say it's about 1,000, maybe 1,200.
And there's not a basement?
Is there a crawl space? Yeah.
So that they can't store it. There's no storage.
No. This is just this is a storefront.
This is to replace the basement.
Downstairs conference room.
Downstairs conference room.
Not to replace, add to.
Add to. Yeah, absolutely. That we need that desperately. Exactly. Yeah.
So
exactly.
for us to change that into a space like that, I don't think would be too much trouble. If we're talking about an actual redoing the roof and all that stuff, we're now starting to talk about a few
Capital
dollars.
project,
So,
yeah.
Well, we'd have to do that anyway, right? I mean, that's.
well, possibly. I mean, this is not going to be a building we're going to use all day, every day. And so if we can just put it on our list of things that the city needs to do.
Right.
And so whether there's other priorities that are more important than re-roofing that's a decision that we'll all have to essentially make.
Yeah, but it doesn't change. What we're doing tonight doesn't change the need. We still own the building. We're,
right.
We would have to do that at some point anyway.
Yeah, potentially. I mean,
we don't want it to fall in disrepair.
With that, if we're going to entertain a nonprofit group using our space, we'd probably want to enter into an agreement. If the council is willing to do it for $1 a year or something like that, we can have that discussion.
Yes.
There might be other nonprofit groups that would want that same deal, so we just have to be cognizant of that as we do things like that. But that's, again, we do that with Center Stage, we do that with Strawberry Days, we create partnerships with them, and if we want to do that with Follow the Flag, then that's something absolutely we can do.
Well, and I would think that the Strawberry Days, I know that from January on, and I don't know if that space is big enough, but they used to meet in the council chambers in the building.
We're going to have a new building here eventually with a community room in it.
But until then, come January, if
Sure. Yeah. And I don't know where'd they meet? They met at the rec.
Oh, that's true. Did you have something else, Dion? Well, and I do know that the beautification or the historic wants to, they want to help.
Yeah.
So.
Spruce up the space a little
yeah.
bit. I think if it's okay with the council, what we'll do is, the intent is that the city will use it in some manner. We can go in and evaluate and see what that means, and if we need to get some chairs or whatever in there, we can work on that. Anything that's major, we'll bring it back to you, and then if we want to entertain something with Follow the Flag. Now, we're going to be having a meeting with them anyway here in the next couple of weeks as staff to talk about what their event is and to make sure we have a nice little partnership moving forward so we're not caught off guard with anything, and we can make that as part of the discussion.
I love that.
And so we can move forward in that manner. So if that's okay, that's the way we'll take it.
That's great. Thanks, Scott.
Sid, you have like 3 minutes. You have anything?
we just need more space, and if we can, it needs a little bit of TLC. There's some broken windows. If we can just get in there after the first when she's moved out and just fix some of the major issues, I think we could start using it immediately for more space. When I go to the beautification commission meetings down in the basement, we usually don't have enough chairs. People are sometimes almost out in the hallway, and we really just need a bigger space for some of these boards and commissions to meet monthly, and I think that would be a great space to do that. And we do have people serving on those boards that are willing to help maintain the grounds and help fix up the building. So I think if we can just commit to repairing some of those major things, we could start using that building immediately.
Yeah, and I sit on the Historic Preservation Committee with Sherry, and it's needed.
Right. We'll move forward in that direction.
Thanks, Scott.
Scott, while you're there, can you, is there anything we need to discuss about our
Right now, we don't have anything on the agenda, so we'll see how that plays out here. We do have 3 weeks between meetings, so we're assuming there will be a couple things. We do have our agenda item now for the 21st based on our discussion today with Mr. Christensen, so yeah.
Okay. Anything?
R&R's looking to open up, and they need a beer license, so we're gonna.
Do they have a date set for ribbon?
They are in that neighborhood, and we just have not received official word. As soon as we do, trust me, you'll receive an email.
Yes, I
so
will.
That you can partake.
Okay.
So.
Okay. Okay, Marty, do you have anything else for us tonight?
Wow.
I'm wondering if Hillary left, but how is she getting into her house? From PG? We're talking about you, Hillary. We're hoping your driveway is okay.
Remember, it's a county project.
That's right.
And then until it gets done, and then we'll take all the credit after that.
Well, thanks, Marty.
They're going down pretty far on this section.
They're
They
going
are.
down.
The cross section that they.
Awesome. Outlive the mayor?
Yeah, it probably will.
Probably outlive the city council as well.
My kids will take my keys away by then anyway, so I won't be driving down it. Unless somebody's driving me, or grandkids. But anyway, so, Scott, has everybody in the council been introduced to our new?
Tyler.
No, I don't think so.
No.
So
I'd introduce myself.
I think there's two here.
Introduce myself at the break.
So this is Kyler Ludwig. He has taken David Larson's place as our assistant to the city administrator and HR manager. He started yesterday, was his first day. We're lucky to have him. I'll let him kind of explain a little bit where he's from, but I will say this. He is a graduate of Kansas MPA program, which is the #1 city manager school in the nation. So we got a good one. As far as education, he has great experience. He's actually been a city administrator of a small town.
Wow.
So he understands really the whole aspects of what a town does. Like I said, we're I'm glad he's here. I think we'll all be glad he's here once he gets a chance to get going. But he's just getting going. So I'll let him.
Yeah, go
Here's
ahead.
the microphone. So he can tell us.
Yeah, I don't need a microphone, I guess is what I just learned. I grew up in a family of 7 kids, and whoever was loudest was most correct. So that is.
That family.
You just keep it on.
We'll put it right here. Oh, no. Never mind.
I'm originally from Orem. That's where I was raised and grew up. Moved out to Kansas. Married someone out there. Went out there for grad school, and then spent time in a few different size cities out in Kansas, ranging from 120,000 down to 1,000. And so a wide range of cities, but we're excited to be back here, back where it's home. And I think the community, Pleasant Grove really is a great community. And I've only been here 2 days, but been very impressed with staff and excited to be part of that team.
Tell us about your wife and kids.
Oh, they're great. That wasn't facetious. They're really great. My wife is, she grew up in Sydney, Nebraska, and then moved out to Kansas. I have 2 kids. One's almost 2 years old, and then the other's about 3 months old. I sleep a decent amount. My wife, I think, she's the one who wakes up very quickly to them. But they're really great kids. One of the reasons that it really encouraged us to come out here, I do have a son who was born with a congenital eye problem, and so being away from rural, it encouraged us to come to maybe more resources. But they're great and keep me all day long.
Or are they still back holding the fort now?
They actually came here earlier than I did. I worked all the way up until Friday at my last job, and we're here a week early, enjoying spending time with my family, and so it's been a good experience so far. I think my wife said there's just so much going on all the time. But it's been a good thing for us.
So you're looking at settling down and renting something?
Well,
waiting for something to be built.
The Kansas housing market is not like the housing market here.
Yeah.
So if you want affordable housing, that's an area you can move to. I think we're looking to settle down, and so we're looking to buy just. Adjusting to that, the pricing of housing has been a slight adjustment. Like I
Culture
said,
shock.
Yeah, we could have probably bought a house for 150 or less that was a nice home, and so
have any of those on the market?
Can't even get you can't even get a lot.
Yeah, we'll get
not even a lot.
A tent and a lot, a small lot here, but we're looking to settle down. I think this is a great place.
Glad you're here.
I think we ought to give him a nickname.
David Larson?
No. No, we'll call him Dorothy, and he's not in Kansas anymore.
Oh, he's not.
Guessing he wouldn't appreciate that. I think Kyler's a pretty unique name. Maybe we just stick with that.
Okay.
I'll go with Dorothy if you let me wear
We're not going to go that far. So. Anyway, but we are an equal opportunity employer. So.
Tina's over there going, whoa.
Whoa. It's getting late. Okay, you got anything else to add, Daniel?
No, thank you for your patience. Today, I got nothing.
Tina.
License consent.
How about France?
Oh, no, just really quickly. We hired someone. We made an offer today for a new inspector. He's starting next week, and we're excited.
Wow.
Good.
We have to post a position now for David. Hard market right now, but we're hoping we get someone great.
Any news on Iceberg?
No.
That is progressing though.
Yeah. They're digging pretty
I'm
deep there.
anxious for that to
I
go
am
down.
too. I am too.
And Cut Bob. Oh, no, wait, they're not.
Got anything else for us,
I have nothing.
Scott?
No, sir.
Forgot that was
Denise?
one that we
No.
approved.
Gary?
We have a summer reading closing party coming up before I see. Oh, great. It will be August 1st from
Chief Thomas?
I don't have anything.
You know, Chief, we do appreciate you very much. I mean, our contractors can kind of say, hey, if you want to talk to the fire department, just come to our building site. But we appreciate that we're not, because they can miss stuff, and you guys have brought a lot.
Of that.
Catch them all the time, too.
Because at the end, they said, well, why isn't there a plug there? And that's when the trouble will be. So
One chance at this.
That's right.
I'm putting my name on that building and having it messed up.
Okay, thank you for your time. So,
Mayor's lifespan.
We watch ours all the time too. They put up 10 bricks a day.
10 bricks a day, okay.
They're gonna give you some, metal.
Anything, Chief Smith? Jan? Kathy, you have anything for us tonight? And where are we having the summer party?
It's at Veterans Park at 6 o'clock. R&R will be catering. Lynn will be there.
Lynn will be there.
And then we're going to swim afterwards for those that want to. So we're expecting Lynn to be in the swim pool as well.
Yeah.
And what was that date again?
Monday, August 6th.
Any entertainment?
We're not going to do entertainment.
Lynn, in the pool.
Do cannonballs.
Hold a candy cannon.
Oh, okay.
I do make a recommendation. I think the city council should serve the food.
We can talk to R&R about that.
Yeah,
I mean,
we're gonna jump in and help them.
I'm just worried you're going to limit my brisket, Eric.
That's the whole purpose I'm doing that.
We'll put you on salad.
Yeah.
And we'll put Lynn on brisket.
Rolls and butter.
That'd be good. That'll work. And then we'll know we'll get it. That's how it's. Lynn, do you have anything for us?
Second.
Oh, that's
Oh, I have nothing.
I have nothing. I'm done.
Far end.
No, I do have something, and I know
Okay,
that's
I'll
going to make
figure it
everybody
was.
very sad.
You got to be the first.
The celebration was fantastic. In fact, that's maybe somebody else that wants to come in. But just, it was well done. The site was perfectly chosen. There were people there, those shade trees. It was a great, great location. So kudos to all of them. And Kyler, welcome. This is a great city. And I would personally like to say that I think that Scott Darrington is one of the best people you can learn from.
What's his nickname?
That's nice of you. Thank you.
Kyler.
No, Scott's nickname. Wasn't it Grandpa or something?
No, it was, what is
Scott.
it, something,
No.
it's a mafia, what is it?
Godfather, he's the Godfather.
Yeah, the Scott father.
Godfather.
No, he's very, very respected in what he does. Anyway, just welcome, welcome. Usually we're much more serious.
It's not going to last this long.
Yeah. I'd like to hear that, Todd. Thank you.
Yeah, that was, we're 9:30. Do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved.
Sleep second.
A second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you, council.
Aye.
Yeah, this is actually this is the latest we've ever gone.
It is, it is. But figured it probably would.
There was a lot on there.
can't find 42, so, and I thought maybe it was in between something, but, and it probably is, but maybe you'll say, well, it's right there, Mayor.